This is the Mark Reardon Show.
Welcome to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today while Mark is out. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Sue, as always, it's a pleasure to see you.
Good to see you, Brad.
It is great to be in here. Thank you, Ethan. Ethan's flying the ship or flying the aircraft today.
I love that analogy.
Well,
it's
it
a
is.
classic, and I love it.
You're flying the plane. I'm just the guy that makes the in-flight announcements and says when the snacks are going to be served. Don't throw peanuts at your fellow passengers.
I like snacks. Do we really
too.
get snacks? I don't think that's happening.
I wish we did.
Mhm.
You know,
I got my lunchbox back there, Sue.
Okay.
I
All
could
right.
use-
What you
I
got?
didn't even get lunch today because I was too busy doing my real job. But it is fun to be in here and to play around when Mark is gone. So I'm glad you are with us this afternoon. Have you ever had one of those occurrences where your head almost explodes? That's where, well, I've got a couple of those things that have happened to me this week.
I'm gonna need a little bit more
Yeah,
detail.
Thank you.
Well, and I will talk to you about that, about a case about what's coming out right now with regard to the Wisconsin judge harboring the illegal alien. But before I get to that, I got to tell you this. I can't give any details, but I had a trial last week with a plaintiff who was fired by all three of her first attorneys. She had one attorney, they fired her, second attorney fired her, third attorney fired her. So then we went to trial and she had a fool for a client because she was representing herself. I knew it was going to be a dumpster fire. So I arranged to have a police officer standing outside the courtroom at the time the trial proceeded. And it got so crazy in this trial that the cop had to come in 2 times. The third time, after the plaintiff accused the court reporter of being a racist, the judge of being a racist, accused me of being a racist. By the way, we're on our 4th judge because she accused judges 1, 2, and 3 of all being racists. When she accused the court reporter of being a racist, the court reporter got up and said some expletives that I can't say on the air and threatened to kick her gluteus maximus.
Oh my God!
And that's when the cop comes in. Puts his hand on his pistol, which I think from first glance was a Glock 19, but he puts his hand on the pistol, points to the plaintiff and says, "Ma'am, it's time for you to leave the building now."
Did you have your popcorn out for this? My goodness.
But I did have my wife with me because I knew this was going to be a dumpster fire.
Right.
So I said to my wife, "Hey, how would you like to be my paralegal for a day?" The first thing she said is, "How much are you going to pay me?" And I said, wait.
In entertainment.
I know, but my wife wanted me to pay her to be a paralegal.
It's all yours, darling.
That's what I said. Her favorite saying to me in the Young household is my wife says to me, "Brad, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine," right?
Oh gosh.
So I thought, you're getting it all anyway, darling. I mean, I'm already paying you. So the cop literally puts his hand on the pistol. And I've never had an experience like that before. So
wow.
People who say, "Oh, being in the court is boring." Well, most of the time it is, but it wasn't when the cop shows up. It's like a party. When the cops show up at a party, it's a good party.
Question: can you say the nature of this issue? I mean, what was the case-ish?
She's
broadly.
alleging that she was hurt at work.
And, okay.
And the rest of it I probably can't go into details on, but until the decision comes out. When the decision comes out, it's all open.
So it's an injury, work injury.
A work injury.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And but it was literally the most. I've never had a trial like it ever before, and I'll never have another trial like it again. So yeah, that makes my head explode that the cops had to show up. So it's a good trial. But the other thing that makes my head explode is this whole situation regarding Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan. Now, if you remember the facts of this case, I'll give it very quickly. It kind of started unfolding last week because sources reported that ICE officials who were there to arrest an illegal immigrant arrived at this Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan, arrived at her courtroom on the morning of April the 18th. And when they went to the chief judge's office, Judge Dugan then directed this person who was an illegal immigrant and his attorney to hide and to go to a side door in a courtroom and she directed the attorney and the illegal alien to hide in a private hallway so that they would not be arrested by ICE officials.
I mean, what was the plan there? She thought that was going to fly.
Well, the plan was, as is always the plan, whenever you hear the left, and particularly the progressive left in this country, not so much the center left, but certainly the progressive left, will say that we should have an open border, that people should be able to come and go as they please, and that literally no other country on earth is like that. Every country has a defined border, but somehow the United States is different. We should have an open border, a porous border, and people should come and go as they please. So this judge's mentality was, I will shield this illegal immigrant from being arrested by immigration officials. Now, here's what's interesting. I did the research on this, and actually under Title 8 of the United States Code, 8, you can Google this if you want, just to fact check me, 8 USC 1324, under that statutory section, not going to read the whole thing, but 2 sentences, because reading on the air is boring, but 2 sentences says this: it makes it an offense for any person who knowingly or in reckless disregard of the fact that an illegal alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, here's the important part, conceals, harbors, or shields from detection, or attempts to conceal, harbor, or shield from detection such illegal alien in any place, including any building or any means of transportation. It violates federal law. Isn't that exactly what this judge said?
Yes.
And yet, even though we have someone who specifically, precisely, and textually violated federal law, this is how the left responded. This is how, Ethan, why don't you go ahead and play clip 15. This is how the left responded when this person who obviously violated federal law, this is how they reacted.
Criminal charge brought against Judge Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin is interfering with a legal proceeding, which is essentially what they've been doing all along.
I think this was a distraction from the first weakness on the economy.
If federal enforcement agencies come to your courtroom and you help a guy escape, that is 2 things. One, it strikes me as maybe something illegal, but it also strikes me as something heroic.
Ethan, pause this for a second.
The arrest of
that lib person said, and I don't know how have all the list of all these liberals who are commenting on it, but they said it's illegal. We know it's illegal. This is so insightful into the mind of progressives. They said, I know it's illegal. However, it's not a good idea. We really shouldn't be. So in other words, after we've heard all of this for the first 100 days of the Trump administration from the left stating that he thinks he's above the law.
Oh, yeah.
That we're in a constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
Because he's refusing to abide by the court's decision. And they go out and say, oh, it's terrible to do anything against the law. And yet here is a lib stating it's okay to break the law if we agree that the law should be broken.
It's so annoying.
Continue with this, Ethan.
Judge in Wisconsin, again, not isolated, felt jarring.
They relish the opportunity to go after judges.
It's not like we didn't know it was going to be terrible, and it is terrible. He really did have a judge arrested today, arresting a judge today. Are you kidding me?
So
what the?
I know it's unfathomable.
Yes,
that you've got people like, I think it was Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota came out and said specifically that this was atrocious. She said, and I'm quoting here, that the arrest is a drastic move threatening the rule of law. Threatening the rule of law isn't what the judge did when she violated Title 8 USC 1324. Wasn't that a violation of the rule of law? But yet now we're saying, yeah, it's a pass. We'll give you a pass because we so want, this is what the progressive left is saying, we so want illegal immigrants in this country that we are going to give judges a pass when they break the law. And here is let me use a situation from Star Wars. Okay. I went over the weekend. I went and saw the re-release of And Ethan, you're smiling. Why are you smiling?
Because I know what you're about to say. You saw the release of The Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith. Okay, and if you remember Revenge of the Sith, the whole setup is this: that Chancellor Palpatine, who we all know is the Emperor, sets up a crisis. And he sets up a crisis, a fake crisis, by engineering this fake war with the trade unions in order to build up the federal government in size and in authority in order to quash a problem that they created by itself.
Of course.
That is so prescient. It's the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, yet that is exactly what the progressive left tries to do with immigration. They want to let everyone in. So when everyone comes in, what is the result of that? It overwhelms the welfare rolls. It overwhelms the criminal justice system. It overwhelms Social Security, and it prevents cities, states, and the federal government from operating efficiently because of being overwhelmed by immigrants. So it's almost as if Chancellor Palpatine creates this problem of immigration so that then they can come along and say, we have the solution to this problem. Tax the rich. We have a solution to this problem. Take all the money from millionaires and billionaires. We have a solution for this problem. Dramatically increase the size of government in order to solve this crisis that we, in fact, have created to begin with. That's the entire plot, folks. If you want to know, not the plot, it is the plot of Revenge of the Sith, but it's also the plot of why the left is so virulently in favor of illegal immigration. It's to create a problem that they can solve by taxing anyone in this country who's successful. That is the goal. That's why it happens. And we are literally seeing that plan play out when you have a federal judge break the law, knowingly break the law, intentionally break the law, and in doing so, the left comes to her defense. That's the game plan, folks. That's the playbook. I've just given you the playbook, and you can see when you know how the playbook works, and then you watch the plays on the field, just like in football or basketball, you could say, yeah, that's exactly how that was sketched out to work. That play worked perfectly. That is how this is playing out. And as we go through the show today, in fact, I'm going to ask later on in the show, I'm going to be talking to Congressman Bob Onder right here from Missouri. I'm going to be talking to him, and I'm going to try to work in a question for Congressman Bob Onder about this very issue, because to me, it's so illustrative of the progressive mind that breaking the law is okay as long as it supports our greater plan to break the system and to remold the system in a way that punishes the successful in our country. Brad Young sitting in today for Mark Reardon. Hope you're having a good time. We'll be back with more. In fact, after this break, when we come back, we're going to talk to columnist Charles Lipson. He's my favorite columnist. We're going to talk to him about another trend on university campuses these days, and that is punishing the Jews. It's shocking to actually hear that as a topic, but that's what's happening. And you're going to want to stick around and hear Charles Lipson next on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young, 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got some volume out there on southbound 270. There was an earlier accident near Ladue Road, and that caused a delay back past Page. Now, we've also got plenty of volume southbound 141 headed for 64 and southbound Lindbergh headed for 64 as drivers use that as an alternate. Just moderate volume southbound 170 from Olive down through Ladue Road. We've got westbound 6440 already stacking up, but mainly moderate volume. It is Kings Highway out past McCausland. 70 looks great out of downtown. 64, though, is a little slow out at Prospect. We look good on the bridges if you're headed into Illinois. Southbound 55, slowing in the construction zone as you head on down toward Bates. Once you get south of Bates, it looks better. Traffic brought to you by Siding Express. Transform your home with the beauty and durability of James Hardie Siding. At Siding Express, they specialize in James Hardie siding installation. Visit sidingexpress.com today to schedule a free consultation. That's sidingexpress.com. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
If you haven't downloaded the Underdog Fantasy app in Missouri, I don't know what you're waiting for. It is one of the, and it's grown a lot. It's one of the leading places to make sports selections. You can play now in Missouri. This is one of the fastest growing sports game apps out there. And millions of fans have already won billions. In the basketball playoffs, they have something unique now called the Extender promo. And that's a way to increasingly win bigger boosts after each round of the playoffs. And the longer the series, the bigger the boosts. You download the app. You just have to choose whether a player goes higher or lower on a stat line. Once you feel good about it, you can play with as little as $1. You can win up to 1,000 times your money. Download the app today. Sign up with the promo code MarkR. That unlocks a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Again, the promo code is MarkR. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/extend.html for details. Concern with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncbgambling.org.
Baseball is back, and this season there are more ways than ever to watch your Cardinals on FanDuel Sports Network. As always, you can watch FanDuel Sports Network through TV providers including DirecTV, Spectrum, Xfinity, Fubo, and more. New for 2025, you can subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network and stream the Cardinals without blackouts. And for a limited time, you can get started with a 30-day free trial using code CARDS30DAY when you sign up at FanDuelSportsNetwork.com. Visit Cardinals.com/TV to learn more.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. You don't hear fast-talking disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Story Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Story Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Lance Story Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 314-260-6120, or visit LanceDruryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Mark Cox here. Join me, Annie Fry, and Mark Reardon, along with Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw of the Retirement Advisory Group for the next Protecting Your Retirement educational event. It's Tuesday, May 20th at the Frontenac Hilton at 6:30. Here are Bob and Thomas with more.
Are you nearing retirement or already retired and worried about the market volatility and losses at this stage in your life? Would you like to learn why linking to the market is much safer than owning the market?
Would you like to learn how to automatically lock in your market gains every year without having to sell? Did you also know if you're 59 and a half or older, you can roll over your company retirement plan tax-free to protect your nest egg from any future losses? You'll get all the answers and more. If you're 59 and a half or older, you cannot afford to miss this event.
Protect your retirement nest egg and join the official financial advisors of my show, Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw, at the Frontenac Hilton on Tuesday, May 20th at 6:30 p.m. Go to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
History is happening in D.C. and 97.1 FM Talk is on the inside. Our very own Annie Fry has been selected to join the national press pool covering President Trump's 100th day in office.
I'm going to Washington, and you're coming with me.
Exclusive access, unfiltered insight, local coverage, and we're inviting you along.
I'm Annie Fry, reporting from the White House throughout the day on 97.1 FM Talk.
Annie Goes to Washington is presented by Stewart's American Mortgage and Grasser Electric.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
3:26 is the time. This time check sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
97.1 FM Talk.
The Mark Reardon Show
on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today for Mark. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I also get to hang out with cool kids like Charles Lipson, noted syndicated columnist, actually my favorite syndicated columnist. Charles, good to talk to you again, sir.
Well, you've become my favorite talk show host along with Mark.
Yeah, hey, Ethan, flag the tape on that. I want to play that.
We'll do.
I'm ahead of Mark when it comes to Charles Lipson.
Oh, no.
That's what you said. That's what you said, Charles.
Tag team.
Listen, I'm still in litigation mode. I had a trial last week, and so I'm still in my litigator mode. But let me take my lawyer hat off here and focus on one of the columns that you wrote recently, Charles, because as I read it, I was literally cheering because of you bringing this to light. You had
I could hear you. I'm in Chicago and you were in St. Louis, but I could hear you.
Oh yeah. I've been heard in different states before, and that's without amplification. But the column that you wrote, Charles, is called "Another Spring, Another Round of Anti-Semitism on Campus," and I am so passionate about this topic, not because I'm Jewish, because I'm not. But because if you look at the founding fathers and the documents that were used to initiate this country, freedom of religion was paramount, was literally at the top of the list of rights to secure. And yet on college campuses across this country, they've been stifling and literally punishing Jews in this country. And it's been driving me crazy. I'm glad you brought this to light. But let's talk about, first of all, let me start here. What set the stage for you to write this column about how being a Jew on a college campus today is almost like having your a wanted poster out with your picture on it?
Well, what set me off was that I walked down. I live only a few blocks from the University of Chicago, a wonderful university where I taught for 4 decades and am now emeritus. But pretty active. And I walked down to campus, and there was a big tent, sort of in the middle of campus, with what Jews would call a blood libel. It first of all, it accused 4 trustees by name with big pictures on the tent and on sort of posts nearby of genocide because they support Israel. And of course, it tells you that the university needs to sell any stock that has anything to do with Israel, and not have any pro-Israel people on campus. Not that there are all that many who speak out publicly. I think a lot of students don't like this, but why make yourself a target? Most people just keep their head down.
Sure.
And the coalition on campus is really, in this case, led by international students, Muslims from Muslim countries, and Muslims in the U.S. who are fundamentally illiberal. They don't believe in this kind of tolerance. And then they've made a coalition with the left, gays and feminists and so forth, all of whom are treated well in Israel, including Muslims, but would be thrown off buildings in the regimes they're supporting.
And I think that's ironic, and I don't want you to move past that yet, Charles, because the folks that are supporting the gays, the trans community, and others who are supporting Palestinians here, who are chanting literally for the extermination of the Jewish state from the river to the sea, and they are advocating this, and they're joined in their advocacy by the gay and trans community. These people in any Muslim nation would be executed for their lifestyle, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. I think there are a couple of points to be made here. One is that this stuff is now starting in high school with kind of indoctrination, but probably middle school. And a number of the parents who are listening to this would know that. We saw a Supreme Court case, wasn't about Israel. It was about forcing students to stay in class, even if their parents didn't want them to listen to books about transgenderism. So there's a sense that the state is taking control over what parents used to have control over. But I think that the coalition of the left is fundamentally a coalition of opposition. And it's what politicians call a log roll. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So it's they may actually believe falsely, if they're feminists, that they would have support in Muslim countries, but they really can't push on that too much. What they can unite around is hating Israel.
And there's so much evidence of this, and you talk in your article that even though on college campuses, and we saw this at play after the October 7 terrorist attack, the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel, that on so many campuses across this country, even right here in St. Louis at Washington University, we saw it at the University of Missouri, which is where one of my daughters go right now. She's there right now. She's there. We saw it at St. Louis University here in St. Louis, as well as college campuses across this country. We saw these sit-ins, and we saw college campuses being overtaken by campgrounds, by fencing, and they were occupying and preventing Jewish students from going to class. How was that?
At UCLA, there was a Jew-free zone that the students set up. This is a public school. But the one thing you didn't see, you saw all of that. One thing you didn't see was university presidents expelling these students, or at least suspending them for a year. There was nothing done. And I've been for many years taught courses in international politics. One of the key concepts there is deterrence. And if you give people only a pat on the head instead of a kick in the groin, you're going to get more of that behavior.
And let me read to you this, and I want to hear your opinion on this. This is from last year. And by the way, we're talking to award-winning columnist Charles Lipson on the show today. And there was an injunction. There was a lawsuit filed in 2024 to stop UCLA from discriminating against Jewish students. Here's what the judge said in the temporary restraining order. And I'm going to quote, it's just 3 sentences. Quote, in the year 2024, in the United States of America, in the state of California, in the city of Los Angeles, Jewish students were excluded from portions of the UCLA campus because they refused to denounce their faith. This fact is so unimaginable and so abhorrent to our constitutional guarantees of religious freedom that it bears repeating. Jewish students were excluded from portions of the UCLA campus because they refused to denounce their faith, unquote. How do you react when you hear this coming from a judge in a court proceeding from last year in California?
Well, it's just loathsome that on a college campus, these kinds of things could be done, and essentially with no pushback from the university or Governor Gavin Newsom. And I would say that if you're a university president and didn't suspend people, you yourself should be suspended.
But let's go to Columbia for a second, because you talk about this in your article, Charles. I'm sure that that District Attorney Alvin Bragg in New York, I'm positive, in fact, that he rode in on a horse to protect these Jewish students, and I'm sure that he arrested all of these pro-Palestinian people who were denouncing Judaism and calling for genocide against Israel. I'm sure Alvin Bragg just arrested all of those people, didn't he?
Well, I think the horse's back broke. But
well, I've seen Alvin Bragg. He's a pretty big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I mean, if he keeps it up, he can run for governor of Illinois.
Well, yeah, good point.
You know, Governor Full Buffet, as we call him. It's a sad thing, because it's not just against Jews. I mean, what people should understand is that this is coercion, and it's fundamentally illiberal. It goes against very basic elements of what our country stands for. I want to recommend that people go. I'll send you a link. Governor Mike Huckabee of your neighboring state has just been sworn in as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. In his speech about how moving it was for him to become ambassador, it's just one of the most moving things. And of course, he's not Jewish; he's Christian, and this gets to another fundamental point. He is speaking up for what you and I would call the Judeo-Christian ethos, which is the backbone of Western civilization. I looked it up, actually. I went through Barack Obama's speeches and actually did a full search for the word Judeo-Christian. It doesn't appear in his 8 years as president. I see this as really an attack on the groundwork of our civilization, and I'm happy to say people are beginning to fight back. And in Missouri, you really have an attorney general, and you had one before, who, if they see violations of law, they're going to go after it, because this is just intolerable. Now, private universities, St. Louis University, WashU, they have greater scope to do things on campus that the University of Missouri does not as a public university.
Exactly.
Nevertheless, they cannot run roughshod over the civil rights of students. And whenever Jewish students are prevented from doing something, shouted down and so forth, the audience should think, what if this were happening to African American students?
Yes. And based upon your experience, again, we're talking to Charles Lipson, noted syndicated columnist. I read his articles every single week, and I'll give him an opportunity to tell you how you can get his articles too in just a moment. But if this were happening, let's insert African Americans in place of Jews in America since October 7. What would the left be saying about that? If we were seeing the same type of protests, the same type of encampments, but it was against African Americans, what would the left be saying about that?
Well, of course, they'd be saying it's all racism, it's intolerable, it's Jim Crow, it's white supremacy. Actually, they've watered down those legitimate terms. Those are important terms.
Yes, they are.
For anybody who grew up in a time of segregation, and it's being overcome by Martin Luther King and many others. These are important things, and to use them willy-nilly about anything is really degrades what should be important terms used carefully. But I would say that one important difference between the Jewish population and the political leaders of the African American student population and political activists is that Jewish students don't view themselves as victims. In fact, that's one of the problems that has led to an attack on Israel. Israel was kind of beloved by the left when it was a victim before it won the 1967 war, and then won again in 1973 and so forth. They love victims, dead victims even better. But Israel is not a victim, and but that doesn't mean it's an oppressor. And to say that somehow it is an oppressor, when not only after October 7th, by the way, the protests against Israel after October 7th began before the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, struck back. That is, it was only after the attack on innocent civilians, killing, beheading, taking captive, and all the rest. Protests in favor of that were taking place in New York and elsewhere before the Israelis struck back. And even now, the majority of Palestinians in Gaza support Hamas. So Israel has really been left with a very difficult situation. But I frankly, here's my puzzle, and I wonder if you have any thoughts about it. What I don't understand is why a kid from, let's say, the St. Louis suburbs, whose dad is a doctor and mom is a lawyer or vice versa, why he or she feels any guilt toward these populations that are essentially appealing to people on the basis of guilt. Muslim Americans, African Americans, Muslim students who come here, all the rest. I don't understand really how they've been guilt tripped into solidarity with movements that years later they're going to say, that's appalling?
Boy, that's a great question. I wish we could answer that. But we're talking to Charles Lipson. And Charles, unfortunately, man, I love talking to you. Unfortunately, we're out of time for this segment. But if folks want to get your column every week, how can they sign up for that?
It's free. Just go to Charles Lipson, Lipson, charleslipson.com. And I have a kind of sign-up thing. You can put your name there. I'll email it to you. And that includes columns. I'll have one tomorrow, for example, in the large British newspaper, The Telegraph, on Trump's first 100 days and what I think he got right and what I think he didn't.
Excellent. Charles Lipson, love talking to you, my friend. And in fact, I'm going to try to talk to you next week. I'll be sitting in for Mark Reardon next week as well. I'm going to try to talk to you next week.
Does he work?
All he does is take vacations. I wish I had his vacation schedule. I use my vacations to work right here on 97.1. But next week, I'm going to try to connect with you so we can talk about Trump's 100 days. Charles Lipson, thanks so much for joining us here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Truly my pleasure.
My pleasure, Charles. Brad Young sitting in for Mark Reardon today. We've got more right after this on the Mark Reardon Show. Stick around.
You're listening to the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, we do have some volume out there. Right now, it's on southbound 270 from Page, pretty much down through Doherty Ferry. There was an earlier accident there, so we've got extra volume southbound 141, southbound Lindbergh, headed for 64. And it's just as drivers use those as alternates. We've got moderate volume now headed into Illinois on the Poplar Street Bridge. And southbound 55 slowing between Arsenal and it looks like Bates now. It looks better to the south of there. Westbound 70 out of downtown isn't bad. 64, some moderate volume at Hampton and at Lindbergh and at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. This report is brought to you by Artistic Decks. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Artistic Decks, making your dream deck affordable for more than 20 plus years. Craft your deck with the highest quality materials with precision attention. Be the envy of the neighborhood. 314-280-0821. 314-280-0821. ArtisticDecks.net.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
Hey, how many of you had power go out in the last month or so? Just even the last couple of weeks here in St. Louis, raise your hand. How many of you have a Generac home standby generator? Because then you don't have to worry if the power goes out, because then the power kicks in right away. I'm going to guide you into a free estimate. Look, at least check this out, because you're sick and tired of having the power go off. You don't have to worry about it. You're going to have peace of mind here in St. Louis if, in fact, you call Generator Supercenter of St. Louis and get a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. This is a great company. I used to be very familiar with them because they're outside of Milwaukee and Waukesha, Wisconsin. And Generator Supercenter is the #1 Generac generator dealer in the country. These are not portable generators. They're awesome. They'll kick in right when that power goes off, and they're going to take great care of you along the lines of customer service as well. So it could be big storms. It could be an ice storm here in St. Louis. It could be the power grid failing. That is going to happen. It's happened down in Texas and elsewhere. Going to happen here eventually. This infrastructure is really old. Call today for a free estimate, 314-499-2020, Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com. That's Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ziprecruiter.com/radio right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Stop everything you're doing right now and ask yourself, are you currently receiving steady paychecks? What about when you're retired? Will you receive a monthly check to cover your expenses and also have some fun? Marvin Mitchell and the team at Compass Retirement Solutions calls this mailbox money. It's a monthly check you'll receive throughout retirement. They don't want you to worry about if the money will show up or how much money you'll receive. The only thing they want you to think about is how to spend it when it arrives. Find out how to get enough money in your mailbox every month when you're retired. Call Marvin Mitchell and the Compass Retirement Solutions team at 314-373-1598 to start working on a plan that can help you create the monthly income you'll need in retirement. Call 314-373-1598 right now and schedule a visit with Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services, investments, and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and Illinois.
The Annie Fry Show
would block schools across the state from using native names, logos, and mascots.
Pep rally Sunday at Collinsville Football Stadium saying, please respect local control on these issues.
Weekdays from noon to 3. Lighting it up. Mark Reardon on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today, and I want to follow up on something before I throw out some ideas here for the room to discuss. But I love talking to Charles Lipson, and here's why. He makes you think when you read his articles or hear him talk about issues. It challenges you to consider ideas and facts that you've never considered before. For example, he mentioned, and it's something that I have wholeheartedly believe, that so much of these protests that we saw on college campuses over the last couple of years is a natural consequence of teaching critical race theory in school. Now, what is critical race theory? Critical race theory is this idea that we are to examine all events of history through a prism. And this prism separates everyone into two groups. Either you are an oppressed or you are an oppressor. And that's the idea of critical race theory. That's why I've been such a vocal opponent to critical race theory, because kids in a third grade class do not need to be separated into the oppressed and the oppressors. Kids in third grade don't oppress anybody except maybe their parents. And that's not based on race. So to me, it's number one, it perverts history. And number two, it turns current groups into having responsibility for something that happened in the past, which is absurd. But look how this works on college campuses. And Charles Lipson alluded to this. He said this. He said that initially, before the late 1960s, the progressives in this country supported Israel. Why? Because they were deemed to be the oppressed. They had been 6 million Jews were killed in World War II. The Jews were discriminated against in every city on the planet, in London, in Europe, in the United States. Jews were the ones who occupied initially the barrios, the slums. And then once the Jews conquered the people who were attacking Israel in the late 1960s, and Israel prevailed, all of a sudden now they shifted from being the oppressed to being the oppressors. And once that happened through this prism of critical race theory, now all of a sudden the progressive left can no longer support Israel because they've moved under that critical race theory prism. And to me, that explains, if you want to know why, I always got in trouble as a kid because I wanted to know why. Dad, why do I have to be home at 10 o'clock? Why do I have to be in bed at 8 o'clock? Why? I asked why all the time. And the answer that I hated the most, and
because
you probably
I said
did too,
so.
because I said so.
Sure.
No, I don't want that. I want you to tell me why. Give me an explanation, ostensibly so I can pick it apart, but at least give me an explanation, right? This tells you the why we're seeing the progressive left. So, number one, active on college campuses, and number two, why they are against Israel in so many circumstances. But I want to squeeze this in because we only have a couple of minutes left, and I got to have Sue's comment on this. And that's this. It came out in the news this week. Actually, it came out over the weekend that last Monday, there was a break-in at the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department where a gun was stolen.
I heard this morning.
Now, isn't it ironic, number one, that not just a gun was stolen, but it was stolen from the police department? And number two, then I wanted to get your take on it. Number two, they found the suspect down in Crystal City, and I'm literally reading from the press release from the police. Okay, they found the person of interest. They recovered missing items from his residence, including the gun.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm reading from the press release, quote, "The investigation remains ongoing as the supposed person of interest is not in custody." And then so he's not in custody, but then the police statement says this, and I quote, "Our top priority is the safety of our community and officers," unquote.
What?
How can it be their top priority if they found the guy that stole the gun and they don't even arrest him?
I am at a loss for that one. And when I heard the story this morning, there was some talk about the fact that they weren't sure how he got in either. And I would have thought that would have been on video somewhere, and that's how they tracked him down. But wait, maybe is it some kind of thing that we don't know? Like they don't have the evidence. They can't tie him to something. They can't. I don't really get it.
I don't get it either. But to me, it so much encapsulates so much of the problem with the crime in the city of St. Louis that not only are people being the victim of crimes, but the police department is now a victim of crime in St. Louis.
And the guy isn't arrested.
And the guy is still at large. Oh, but wait, no, their top priority is the safety of our citizens. Right. And I've got a bridge for you too in Florida. Hey, Brad Young sitting in for Mark Reardon today. I'll also be back next week as well. So stick around. Brad Young coming up after this.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads this afternoon, we do have some volume out there, and most of it seems to be on southbound 270, and that's between Page and Doherty Ferry, and then things look a little bit better. It's also a little off the pace at 44. Northbound 170 is slowing as you approach 270. There's an accident there reported really close to Frost, and that's created a jam behind it. Westbound 70, pretty good out of downtown. We've got volume, though, on 64 from Kings Highway out through Hampton. A little bit of moderate volume here and there, and again on either side of Lake St. Louis Boulevard. 55 slowing headed down toward Bates in the construction zone, and moderate volume crossing the Poplar Street Bridge eastbound. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Spaghetti when we suddenly noticed that we started getting sweaty, so we grabbed the keys and we ate it in the van. That's what my friend said. Call Jerry Kelly, man, JerryKelly.com. Give him a call, even though it's late. JerryKelly.com.
Well, I love Mike Reynolds and the team at Michael's Flooring Outlet. I've been talking about them nonstop for 4 years. We did a great project, though, in the fall with Mike and the team. And I finally reached out and said, look, we have 2 rooms that probably need to have carpet removed. My daughter's room, it was getting a little nasty. The bunny was tearing up some of the carpeting. I have to blame Oreo for some of this. And we decided, hey, can we do a hard flooring project, making it a lot easier, especially as my daughter becomes a teenager in a couple of years, to clean up. The bunny won't chew the carpeting. He said, yeah, here's some options. He gave me some pictures. Actually, we did this via text message, but you can do a lot of this via email, etc. And we went to work on a project. They installed the flooring. We ended up doing another project in the basement because we had some leftover product. It was an amazing experience. And you'll have the same experience. Even though you don't have a personal relationship with Mike and the team, you will when this is over. IGotFloor.com is the website. They're open 6 days a week in Old Town St. Peters, in Darden Prairie, and, of course, in West County on Olive. Again, that website, IGotFloor.com. Michael's Flooring Outlet. Tell them that we sent you over from 97.1 FM Talk.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you've been injured in a car accident, call America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, my mission has been to deliver more for our clients, to deliver more for you. Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Mark Cox here. My friends over at Lore Wine and Spirits have introduced me to one of the fastest growing, ready-to-drink cocktails in America, Rancho La Gloria Margaritas. Now, legend has it the margarita cocktail was invented back in the 1930s at Rancho La Gloria Hotel down in Tijuana, Mexico. For over 80 years, people have been trying to make the best tasting margarita, and I think we found it. Rancho La Gloria margaritas are made with 100% Weber agave, all natural flavors. They're gluten-free, and they have about 40% more alcohol than the competition. Lime and strawberry are a couple of the top sellers. They even have blueberry. And 4 other flavors for your enjoyment. So pick up a few bottles today, because Cinco de Mayo is just around the corner, and we can all use a reason to party. You can find it at Deerberg, Schnucks, Dirt Cheap, and Total Wine and more. Ask for it by name, Rancho La Gloria Margaritas.
History is happening in D.C., and 97.1 FM Talk is on the inside. Our very own Annie Fry has been selected to join the national press pool covering President Trump's 100th day in office.
I'm going to Washington, and you're coming with me.
Exclusive access, unfiltered insight, local coverage, and we're inviting you along.
I'm Annie Fry, reporting from the White House throughout the day on 97.1 FM Talk.
Annie Goes to Washington is presented by Stewart's American Mortgage and Grasser Electric, KFTK FM Florissant,
an Odyssey station.
Tomorrow marks the first 100 days. Lisa Brady, Fox News. And the White House is emphasizing border security since the second Trump term began.
Tom Homan touting a 96% drop in illegal immigration since President Trump returned to office.
Border numbers are historic low. Today, as I'm standing here, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. And the numbers prove it.
The president's border czar speaking at the White House, telling those in the U.S. illegally they will be prosecuted and deported.
We're going to continue to forge ahead with this mass deportation campaign, and the president is open to all remedies to do that.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt detailing 2 executive orders the president will use to further his immigration crackdown, one to help law enforcement pursue criminals, and one to identify sanctuary cities that don't follow federal immigration law.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
The start of Donald Trump's second term has been the worst start of any president in modern times. He now has the lowest approvals any president has seen through his first 100 days since they started polling 80 years ago.
This as Republicans in Congress continue work on a budget bill to advance the president's agenda, including tax cuts. The Super Bowl champions visiting the White House.
So I want to congratulate once again, and let me just say, fly, Eagles, fly, right?
President Trump hosting a celebration for the Philadelphia Eagles just a short time ago. The Washington Commanders would have a new stadium in D.C. by the year 2030 under an agreement announced earlier today. They've been playing in Maryland since 1997.
The stadium project announced today promises to be great for the fans, the team, and the district, and the NFL.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, the Commanders would pay nearly $3 billion of the nearly $4 billion project. The D.C. Council needs to vote on the city's share of the cost. America is listening to Fox News.
Point. Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
Oh, I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Ace, you're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at metamucil.com.
I'm ready. Let me just grab my bag.
Sweatpants, huh? Didn't know we were keeping it casual this month.
Yeah, I feel bloated every now and then.
You have to try new Align 3-in-1 Biotic Gummies. They have prebiotics to nourish good bacteria, probiotics to help relieve occasional bloating, and postbiotics for immune support.
All that in one gummy?
Yep. So no sweatpants next time?
Not anymore.
Align 3-in-1 Biotic Gummies for gut health support. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Windy and quite warm for evening plans. As clouds take over, we'll drop out of the 80s into the upper 70s. 69, that's it for the overnight low. Tuesday, periods of rain and thunderstorms. Otherwise, a mix of clouds and sunshine. Windy and 75. Showers and a couple of thunderstorms Tuesday night, 60, and still unsettled Wednesday and Thursday. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
I'm Chad Robinson with Your Money Now. President Donald Trump's first 100 days in office are the worst for the stock market for the start of a president's 4-year term in 5 decades, according to new CFRA research. The S&P 500's nearly 8% drop from Trump's inauguration through the close on April 25th is the second worst showing since the start of President Richard Nixon's second term in 1973. Nixon saw the S&P tumble 9.9%, worse than Trump's current level of a 7.9% loss. In its second weekend in theaters, Ryan Coogler's Sinners earned $45 million in ticket sales, securing the top spot at the weekend box office. Sinners has now made more than $161 million worldwide. On Wall Street, stocks were mixed, with the Dow gaining more than 100 and the Nasdaq off the pace by 16. Crude oil futures sit under 62 a barrel. That's Your Money Now.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts.
Well, let's face it, people are staying in their homes longer because of interest rates, probably. So if you're looking to stay in your home and do something magnificent with it, I want to guide you into the help of Banner Construction, a great company that's been in business since 1993 here in St. Louis, a great supporter and sponsor of mine, I should mention, from my days on the other AM radio station. But they're going to make you really, really happy if you call them over to your home for a free in-home design consultation. I believe they'll blow you away with what they can do to transform your home into maybe the best looking home in the neighborhood. And they do it with top-notch products. James Hardy Fiber Cement Siding. Just go on the website at bannerconstruction.com. Click on the showcase or the Hardy Siding tab. Find out more about what makes that product so great, why homeowners love to put it on their home, why Banner Construction specializes in the installation of a great product like James Hardy Fiber Cement Siding. Same thing goes for the Pella windows. And if you want an appointment, it's just a phone call away. 314-569-1050. The website, bannerconstruction.com, and have a banner day. Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today and hanging out with the cool kids here. Much more fun than practicing law, I assure you. We welcome, of course, Hall of Famer Fred Bottomer. Hey, Brad. Good to talk to you, buddy. Glad you're here.
How about old Fred Bottenheimer over there, ladies and gentlemen?
That's right.
I
And
just
we-
like pressing that one.
Thanks. And of course,
I like hearing it. So
I do
thank
too,
you.
because it is impressive. And speaking of impressive, Sue is here. Thank you very much, Sue. And
Yes.
we're gonna get to Sue's news, but I want to give just a couple of give you a menu of a couple of things here. First of all, right now, today, Annie Fry, our very own Annie Fry, she's part of the White House press corps today and tomorrow. And President Trump is supposed to be signing some executive orders on immigration. Annie's going to be a part of that. She'll be there, and hopefully she'll be checking in as the situation warrants. Also, the rest of the week, we'll be having Mike Elam will be sitting in for Mark Reardon. I'll be back next week for a couple of days as well. So lots of variety here on the Mark Reardon Show. And finally, Wednesday night, right here on 97.1 FM Talk, we will be covering the News Nation Town Hall. That'll be from 7 to 9 p.m. Chris Cuomo will host President Trump, and they will be joined by Bill O'Reilly, Stephen Smith, to discuss literally the first 100 days of the second term of President Trump. And of course, immigration and lots of other things will be certain to be topics here Wednesday night. Mark your calendars, phone your friends, wake the neighbors. It'll be Wednesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. right here on 97.1 FM Talk. And with that out of the way, my favorite part of the Mark Reardon Show, Sue's News.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
How about the Blues? Oh, so fun to watch.
That was great.
Was it not so fun to watch? Brad, did you catch any?
I did. I actually only saw the third period because I started it late. I had it recorded as well. What a game. What a game.
They are so fun to watch when they are like this. And to me, they are full of confidence. And when the Blues are confident,
yes,
all good can happen.
It changes your mood for the whole day, doesn't it? For the
Oh,
whole weekend?
absolutely.
I love it.
It really does. So I was at games 3 and 4, and I have to give my love to Enterprise Center. They hit it home. They did such a good job, both from a production standpoint of being able to get the crowd involved, but also like having alumni there. Chris Pronger was there
nice.
for game 3, getting the crowd fired up. Tony La Russa and Wilson Contreras were both there. They showed them on the screens. I mean, when they showed Tony La Russa, that place erupted. And the only person that was louder in those couple days than that was when they showed Pat Maroon at the beginning of game 4.
Love it.
He's chugging a beer and the crowd just loses their minds at the beginning of the game. It was so much fun. And it's so much more fun right when you win. So good stuff. And let's hope that they can bring this series home here by the end of the week.
Fingers crossed.
And listen, I was at a couple of the Stanley Cup games in 2019.
Yeah.
And to me, that last game that the Blues played, it had the feeling and the atmosphere and the excitement and the energy of the games where I was at the Stanley Cup finals. It felt like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just how it is. I'm not allowed to go to any Stanley Cup games because the one I went to in 19 they lost.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, well, to be fair, so did most because they only won one of the home games. But that was the one I was at.
Oh, of course. Well, you know what? You're good luck.
Yeah, I
We're
guess
sending
so.
you out.
I guess it's just I got to put it on my back and I got to make the trip up to Winnipeg.
I might have you come
And
watch
Sue-
me play pickleball. Just
Yeah, play pickleball. Hey, I don't want to interrupt you, but I will
No.
say I was at the Cardinals game last week, and my wife and I were on the Kiss Cam. So
that's
just to let you know,
adorable. That's
first
adorable.
time we were on Friday night, and the cameraman was there. We were made the Kiss Cam. Never ever been on the Kiss Cam before.
So
That's awesome.
tell me, I'm always curious about this.
Yes.
Were you the couple that didn't even notice it until the end?
No,
Yeah, or
did you know right away?
you
I
know.
saw the
on
cameraman right where we were sitting.
Ah.
And he looked at me, and I tipped my cap to him. And then when they started the Kiss Cam, he put right on me and my wife. I took my hat off, and I did like no paparazzi, and I covered it up. And then I'm kissing my wife, and I put the hat back on, and I'm laughing because I'm looking at the camera. I'm not looking at the jumbotron. I'm looking at the camera, and I got a lot. In fact, a friend of mine was at the game. He texted me. He said, "Get a room."
That's really
Did you
cute.
get a good reaction from the crowd?
Oh, I did.
That's
big,
what
big
counts.
applause.
That's what counts.
I appreciate people like you, Brad.
Yeah. Otherwise, sometimes when it's like a brother and sister and they can't tell, and then they're like, that
No,
kind of
yeah,
cracks
they're like,
me up.
no.
I also enjoy those, but that's just me.
Well, Arkansas fans would like it for brother and sister,
Well,
but that's a whole nother issue.
We got a Mizzou fan here or something? Is that-
Yeah, can you tell? 66 years ago, on this day in history in 1959, the first independent TV station in St. Louis signed on. Yep, it's Happy Birthday to Channel 11. KPLR, which of course is short for Koppler, which I learned in one of the History of the Lose.
Yep,
and
Ted
according to Joe Sonderman's book, which I like, it's This Day in St. Louis History, the plan was, okay, it's coming on the air, and it's going to air the Cards-Reds game that night. Everybody's all set, but then the game's rained out. So the next night, the Cards played Milwaukee, which, by the way, as Fred would know, was the Braves at the time.
Right.
And they had Jack Buck, Harry Carey, and Joe Garagiola.
What a team.
Isn't that awesome? But that was 66 years ago today. All right. And then I heard this story and I thought, what? Okay. Bill Belichick is doing a press tour for his new book, The Art of Winning, Lessons from Life in Football. And he was interviewed yesterday on CBS Sunday Morning. And when he was asked about his current and much younger girlfriend, remember he's 70 whatever and she's 24, she was off to the side controlling what wouldn't be discussed while the interview was underway. It's so awkward. Here it is.
Really?
24-year-old Jordan Hudson, his creative muse, as he writes in his book.
Make sure that that's the
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
not talking about this.
No.
No.
Oh
okay.
Wow.
What is happening?
I just want to do what's right, or he defines right as whatever his girlfriend tells him is right.
She's 24.
Wow.
She's
Wow.
controlling it.
This
I
guy's
mean-
this guy's won 6 Super Bowls. He is
Thank
the
you.
greatest coach
Yes.
in NFL history.
Uh-huh.
That is unbelievable.
Isn't it shocking? And so I heard that and I thought, well, I have to, what? I have to share.
So they played it just like that on air?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Good.
Wow, good.
Good
I'm
is
glad
right.
they did.
And then I looked it up. They met on an airplane. So there.
Wait, that's it?
They met on an airplane. He was seated next to her. And they started, he commented about, because at the time she was like head cheerleader at some, I mean, she would have been young. Not that 24 isn't young. And she had a book that he was interested in, and they started talking, and and they were friends for a while, and then he broke up with whatever, or maybe she broke up with him. I don't know. And 2022, and then they've kind of come to where they are today, but now she's showing up in interviews and saying what they're going to talk about.
That
Well,
is amazing.
I can promise you that Bill Belichick, the majority of his clothes and his shoes are older than his girlfriend.
Well,
did you the
clearly
shirt, the shirt that he was wearing during the interview was a Navy University shirt, but it had a rip in the shirt, like right above where the collar is. It had a rip because he does. That's just what. That's who he is. He does not care. But I thought that was hilarious.
Thank you, crowd.
Yikes.
Because it's weird.
Crowd did
Fred,
not
that's
think it was
weird.
funny.
It's not me.
Oh no, that's very weird.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025 was finally announced. They announced it on American Idol last night. Bad Company, Chubby Checker, who only has one hit, Cyndi Lauper, Soundgarden, and the White Stripes. So the winners of the fan vote, Fish, that we talked about last week, got snubbed. Salt and Pepper and Warren Zevon will be inducted into the musical influence category. Okay, so Brad, Fish won the fan vote last week with 330,000 votes. Bad Company came in second. And Billy Idol followed in third, but he didn't make it this round either.
Wait, I'm confused.
I like how the 330,000 votes for Fish equates to just one
vote
for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's what I was about to ask. And how many votes does it take to get in?
I don't know. I should have looked that up.
I think we need a recount here.
But all of that, they don't care about the people.
That's so silly.
They put in who they want.
That's
it's just
ridiculous.
Interesting. Yeah, and despite the love from fans, what are you going to do? The induction ceremony will take place on November 8th in LA. It's going to stream live on Disney Plus. Then they make it available on Hulu the next day, and then it gets a broadcast on ABC later. Will you watch, Fred?
No.
I won't either. Brad?
No.
I don't think it. Do people care? What about the Ute, Ethan?
Hell no.
Thank you. I didn't think so. All right. There is a new poll out on running swagger. Okay, 2,000 people were apparently asked which animals they thought they'd be able to outrun. Okay,
oh boy.
2% believes they could outrun a horse in a 100-meter dash. It's got to be men.
Nobody's going to outrun a horse.
And for what it's worth, the fastest horse ever recorded managed a speed of more than 40 miles per hour, people. Okay?
Oh, my
And
gosh.
Usain Bolt's fastest speed was 28 miles per hour, which is unbelievable, by the way.
There is actually someone who could run that fast, and that's Governor J.B. Pritzker towards an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Good Lord. And they say 27% of people are confident they could outrun a crocodile. Newsflash. No.
What?
They can run like 10 miles an hour on land. And if you were really good, I mean, if you put the croc in one lane and you in the other, but that's not how it happens. It happens by the water, and the croc comes out, poof, before you've run away.
And you're a snack.
And you did.
Game over.
Mm-hmm. You can't. 20% of people think they can outrun an elephant, which can run more than 20 miles an hour. And 11% of people say, I could outsprint a house cat, but that's not going to happen.
I can outrun a tree sloth.
Same.
I
And
can
that's
do that.
about it.
You're
You're
not
not gonna, no.
reinstating my hope in humanity.
No, sorry
That's
about
not
that.
what you're doing.
All right. Since Brad was talking about Star Wars, how was the movie, by the way?
Oh, here's what, to me, the greatest thing about that. Well, there's a lot of great things about the movie. But in 20 years, think about the technological progress we've had in 20 years.
Which movie is it now?
This is the third of the prequels. It's called The
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith. And it came out 20 years ago. And the special effects were it seemed as if the movie came out yesterday.
Seriously?
And they were 20 years old. They were that good.
Wow.
20 years ago.
Were a ton of people at the theater?
It was probably 20% full. That's it.
Oh, okay. Ethan,
But
did you say that it was doing really
it
well?
did really well as to what I saw. I saw it generated a lot of money. So this was the one, Sue, this episode about this is the final setup, right, of how Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it was. So it was obviously
It's a big one.
it's a big one.
You hear
as
James
far
Earl
as-
Jones's voice at the end of the movie.
That's all you really want, isn't it? All right. Have you ever wondered why Yoda speaks backwards in Star Wars? Well, George Lucas has finally given us the answer. And he was out during a 45th anniversary screening of The Empire Strikes Back, which is the last Star Wars movie I saw. What's the last Star Wars you
I
saw?
think the same
Fred?
one.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Because he said, well, let's hear. Let's hear what he says. Don't I have a little bit of Yoda?
I say, Master, moving stones around is one thing. This is totally different.
No different. Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
I did. Okay. So for the Freds and
Frank
the me of the world that don't remember what Yoda sounds like, that's it. But here is what George Lucas said. Because if you speak regular English, people will not listen that much. But if he had an accent or it's really hard to understand what he's saying, they focus on what he's saying. And I wanted them to focus on what Yoda was saying. He was basically the philosopher of the movie. I had to figure out a way to get people to actually listen, especially 12-year-olds.
Genius.
I think that really is genius.
Yoda was my favorite growing up. So, I mean, clearly it worked.
Right? What's not to like?
And in Revenge of the Sith, he's got some moves.
Does he?
Does.
Oh,
Does he?
he's got some moves.
Yeah, you get the old Yoda in the original 3, but in the prequels, you get a younger Yoda, I guess.
Well,
that's how you'd say
a
it.
CGI Yoda.
He's still old, right? But like,
Wait a minute. How did they make him younger?
Well,
did they really
he's not
CGI
actually
him?
younger, but
he's like 20 years younger,
but
which is
he's just-
irrelevant when you're 900.
he still has a cane, right? But he's doing all kinds of crazy flips and diving
Oh,
off
he's
of stuff.
doing acrobatics?
Oh yeah,
Basically,
Jackie Chan. He'd put Jackie Chan to shame.
Jackie Chan Yoda. Okay, well, people on Reddit are sharing which actors nailed their role so well that no one else could ever compare. And I thought this was interesting, just because I know Fred loves the Star Trek. Could anyone replace Leonard Nimoy as Spock?
I don't think so.
See, that's
No.
it. Did you
No.
watch?
Oh, listen, I went to Star Trek conventions. I actually
Okay.
met Leonard Nimoy
Oh
at a Star
my
Trek convention.
gosh!
That's how into it I am.
Well, I would say that no one could compare to that. That's number 5 on the list. Would you agree?
Yes.
Number 4, Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka. And we've had several Willy Wonkas past then. I
None
can't
compare.
say.
None compare.
I
My
agree.
wife likes to say when she was a kid and saw Willy Wonka, she thought that Gene Wilder was Willy Wonka.
Aw.
And when she would see him in interviews, she would say, "Look, there's Willy Wonka." She thought it really was Willy Wonka.
Okay, well, then that's good acting. Number 3 is Mike Myers as Austin Powers. Yes, nobody can touch that. Number 2, Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. I would agree with
that's a
that.
good
Oh,
one.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the number 1 was James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano.
Oh,
You can't beat that.
not at all.
And of course, I've screwed up the bell and I can't do it.
A
Okay,
daily
and
occurrence.
you're right. And finally, in Sue's news, we do have today's random fact. I can't decide. All right, let's do this one. After Top Gun came out, the movie, the number of men joining the Navy to become naval pilots went up 500%.
Oh,
That's hilarious.
wow.
500%.
Wow.
Not too shabby.
I wonder if any military movie even competes with numbers like that.
I can't imagine that it does.
But I
'Cause
can tell you that NASA thought they were going to get the Top Gun treatment because they backed the movie Armageddon.
Oh,
And they didn't see anybody wanting to join NASA because of
I was going
Armageddon.
to say, you got to consider the plot line there. And that's it for Sue's news.
A great Sue's news here. Thank you very much, Sue. Hey, we've got more here on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Congressman Bob Onder, Congressman from Missouri, and to talk about everything Washington, including Trump's first 100 days, the tariffs, immigration, and more next on the Mark Reardon Show. 97.1 FM Talk.
Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Reardon KFTK and Instagram at Mark Talk. This is the Mark Reardon Show. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got an accident northbound 170 near Frost, and they've got the right lane and the right shoulder blocked, which leaves only one left lane getting by. We've got a jam that goes back through 70. Also an accident eastbound 70 just past Lindbergh. Watch for a jam behind that one that goes back near the Rock Road. Now, westbound 70 out of downtown, moderate volume at Jennings Station Road. A little bit at that accident. Then we had another one reported near Cave Springs, so some moderate volume there as well. Westbound 6440 Slowing at Boyle, Kings Highway out through McCausland at 270. And then out west, just some moderate volume, Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Southbound 270, still slow in pockets from Page down through 44. And 55 is a slow go through the construction zone. From about, it looks like Arsenal down through Bates. And if you're headed into Illinois, there's some volume headed for the Poplar and on the bridge itself through 64. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. Hold on. Is this report brought to you by anybody? Ethan, stand by. Siding Express. Yes, transform your home with the beauty and durability of James Hardie Siding. At Siding Express, they specialize in James Hardie Siding. Visit sidingexpress.com today. Schedule a free consultation. sidingexpress.com. I'm Sue Thomas. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk.
Let's get your carpets clean, and let's do it the right way with the help of Zero Res, and a great offer for the month of April. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $119, $75 off your air duct cleaning package. You're getting professional carpet cleaners. You're getting great technicians who have a ton of experience, who love to help you. They go hard to work the stains and the odors. And by the way, it might be beyond the carpets. It could be your upholstery. I've had them clean my upholstery before. Area rugs. Sometimes on the area rugs, they have to take it back to the warehouse, but then they drop it back off and they'll take great care of you. If you haven't had the carpets done in a while, we had a soggy April, right? Take advantage of a great offer. Get all that dirt and grime out of your carpets, and also the ductwork, because you have, just look at the vents right now. Maybe your clothes is not drying very quickly. They can do the dryer vent as well. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned until the end of April, starting at $119, and then you can take $75 off your air duct cleaning package. Call 314-474-2020. They can book online as well at ZeroResSTL.com. Now, mention my name. If you mention my name or 97.1 FM Talk, you get the deal for the month of April. You spell it backward or forward. It spells the same. Zero Res.
Sometimes it seems all lawmakers do is tax and spend. That's why Missouri voters passed the Hancock Amendment in 1980 to place a limit on what the government can do with your money. But the Hancock Amendment is outdated. It hasn't provided a taxpayer refund since 1999 and probably won't without reform. That's why Missouri needs a taxpayer Bill of Rights. Colorado has one, and taxpayers there have received more than $8 billion in refunds. It's simple. There should be limits on government spending and refunds when there's a surplus in the state budget. A taxpayer Bill of Rights constitutional amendment would help limit the growth of government. Missouri's budget has nearly doubled in the past 5 years, yet the state lags far behind states like Colorado in economic growth. The Hancock Amendment was supposed to protect taxpayers. Now it's time for an update and a taxpayer Bill of Rights. After all, it's your learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel, and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
There's an evil new twist in the tragic story of baby powder and its link to ovarian cancer. Recently uncovered documents reveal that talc can contain asbestos.
The same asbestos that we know causes mesothelioma.
Right, and ovarian cancer.
In the 1970s, the industry wrote its own rules, allowing Johnson & Johnson to claim that its talc was asbestos-free, as long as it contained less than 1% asbestos.
Of course, Johnson & Johnson helped write those rules. So while we're using hazmat suits to remove the asbestos from our homes, Johnson & Johnson was telling women it's safe for their bodies.
Unbelievable. So if you've used talcum powder for feminine hygiene and contracted ovarian cancer, call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
They've already won several large verdicts against Johnson & Johnson for women just like you.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH. That's 1-800-RX-WATCH, or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
HousingAndyFry.com.
4:30 is the time. This time check sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
97.1 FM Talk. Saying what you're thinking. Mark Reardon.
Sunday, but I got so damn depressed that I said,
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today, and it is an honor and a pleasure to welcome our next guest on the show this afternoon, Dr. Congressman Bob Onder. I'm not sure how you juggle those titles, but Congressman, welcome to the Mark Reardon Show.
Thank you, Brad. Great to be back.
I also have to give a disclaimer. Before he was a congressman, a U.S. congressman, Dr. Bob actually treated me for allergies. So in case there's some kind of a problem with that, I wanted to go ahead and throw that out there to know that he's not only my congressman, but he's also my doctor, which is absolutely a cool thing, a doctor in Congress. But Dr. Bob or Congressman, what I want to do is I want to jump in here because I know that your time is very precious. And what I want to talk about is this. Today, or this week, actually, we're looking at the end of the first 100 days of the second Trump administration. Up to this point, what is your analysis of the Trump administration thus far?
Well, of course, President Trump was elected on a number of very important issues, the top two of which were securing the border, improving public safety, and improving the economy. And I think we're already seeing success in both of those areas. Border crossings are down as much as 95% compared to the days of the Biden administration. I mean, and this is even before Congress has passed the so-called Big Beautiful Bill that we're working on to provide more resources for border security. And regarding the economy, we've had a good jobs report. We have low inflation. I do think our economy is going to face some headwinds in the course of tariffs and the potential trade war. But at the same time, I think overall we're on the right track as we see the Trump tax cuts from 2017 renewed, as we see deregulation, especially in the area of energy policy. I think things are going to get better and better.
Now, you mentioned, Congressman, you mentioned the trade tariffs and you mentioned we have some headwinds coming up. But one of the things that drives me crazy, one of the millions of things that drives me crazy about the mainstream media is that they never talk about the big picture. We hear a lot. We hear every day about the problems with the economy right now because of allegedly tied to the tariffs. But what's the big picture? In other words, what are these tariffs designed to accomplish?
Yeah, I think the big picture is that we look at a world economy where almost every country has much higher trade barriers, tariffs, but also other, especially Europe, non-tariff barriers, various ridiculous regulations. And this has gutted American manufacturing over the past decades. It's caused a loss of jobs. It's caused a loss of manufacturing capacity, and really even is a national security concern. So what President Trump is talking about with reciprocal tariffs, but I think in many cases we'll see trade deals negotiated before the tariffs go into effect. We're talking about rebalancing things, returning to a regime that's as fair, as free of trade as possible, but also fair trade where we aren't taken advantage of by foreign economies and foreign countries.
We're talking to U.S. Congressman Bob Onder from right here in Missouri. And Congressman, you mentioned, obviously at the very beginning, the things that Donald Trump was elected to do. One of those things dealt with immigration. Now, you mentioned that immigration is down 95%. I've seen in some places that it's down to zero in areas that were flooded. It's down to zero illegal immigrant crossings compared to where they were just a year or two ago. And I want to ask you about this. We were told for the 4 years of the Biden administration that nothing could be done about the border unless Congress acted. what does the current state of the illegal immigration in the United States say about that position of the Biden administration when they tried to blame Congress for the problem?
Yeah, well, not only was there talk, Brad, about Congress acting, but there was something very specific that Biden and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats wanted Congress to do, which is to pass what I called the Biden amnesty bill, the bill that would say that 1 million illegal aliens could enter the country every year before the president could do anything to shut down the border. In the first 100 days, Congress has done one thing. We passed the Lake and Riley Act, which is a very important piece of legislation to crack down on and detain and to deport criminal illegal aliens. But most of what's been done by the Trump administration is to enforce already existing law. And I've been saying this, I've been fighting this issue for a couple of decades now. I've always said that we don't so much need new laws. In some cases, we need more resources at the border. But what we need is to enforce the law. And President Trump, by doing that, along with Tom Holm and Christine Noem and Pat Bondi and others, has enforced the law. And the message to would-be illegal aliens is that we're not tolerating it anymore. So we're doing two things. One is we're shutting down the borders. We're cutting down on border crossings. And at the same time, we're sending the message that we're going to do interior enforcement as well. If you are illegally in the country, especially if you're illegally in the country and committing crimes, we are going to detain and deport you. If you're a member of an alien drug gang or a human trafficking gang or trafficking in fentanyl, we are going to detain and deport you. And that's what President Trump has done. And I think in addition to the very high-profile deportations you hear talked about, I think you have a lot of self-deportation. You have a lot of people who are just saying, I thought under Joe Biden I was going to stay here forever. Eventually I'd get citizenship and welfare benefits and the right to vote. Well, maybe the calculus for those people favors going back home to their country of origin.
And what's your reaction to this, Congressman? Because I've talked about this earlier in the show today, but one of the hot issues right now deals with this Wisconsin judge, Hannah Dugan, who was arrested by the FBI. And we hear the liberals in Congress and in the Senate talking about how it's terrible that a member of the judicial branch has been arrested by the executive branch. But we know that there's solid evidence that she was breaking the law. Do you have any problem with the Trump administration having this judge, Hannah Dugan, arrested in light of the fact that there's evidence that she was actively breaking the law?
Yeah, I don't see anything in our Constitution or our statute books that says judges don't have to obey laws. Look, she was harboring an illegal alien, and that's a crime, and she deserves to get arrested and charged and tried, and if she's guilty, sent to prison just like anyone else. Certainly, it's appropriate that she has lost her judgeship. You just can't make these stories up. They are so ridiculous. But that is the mindset of the sanctuary city Democrats who just want to snub their nose at our immigration law to oppose President Trump at every step of the way. It really is Trump derangement syndrome, as it's sometimes been called, that there are these issues that 80-90% of the public supports us, the Republican Congress, President Trump on, and yet the Democrats insist on doing ridiculous things like this, like having sanctuary cities and doing everything they can to resist immigration enforcement.
We're talking to Congressman Bob Onder from right here in Missouri. And Congressman, I know your time is very valuable, but I want to get to this question before we go. And that is, we've heard about the big, beautiful bill that's going to be coming out of Congress regarding the taxes and lowering taxes and making the temporary tax reduction that came in the first Trump administration, make those elements permanent. Where do we stand on the big, beautiful tax bill?
Yeah, that's right, Brad. It is critical that we pass that bill. Otherwise, the American people, will face a $9.5 trillion tax increase, the largest tax increase in American history. The average American family will see a 22% increase in their taxes. Before Easter recess, we passed the the Senate version of the budget resolution that got the process started. I'm happy to say that this week we're going to have markups, committee work on where we actually write the big, beautiful bill. Tomorrow, Education and Workforce that I serve on will be marking up their part of the bill. And the next day, Judiciary and Transportation and Infrastructure that I also serve on will be marking up their part of the bill. So we're moving right along. I think our version of the bill out by Memorial Day, hopefully our Senate counterparts will follow suit, and we'll get this done sometime late spring, early this summer.
Right. And I guess that was going to be my question about how we move forward, the timeline. Obviously, a lot of folks don't have any concept of how complicated it is to get a bill out like this through the reconciliation process and elements of the bill. But at this point, and I'm not going to ask about any amendments or anything to the bill, but at this point, do you see passage of the big, beautiful bill sometime before the end of summer? Is this going to pass?
I think we will do it. I think we will pass it. There's always, give and take. And I will say, unfortunately, not a single Democrat will likely support us on this. This is a long cry from the bipartisanship of the era of Ronald Reagan, where Tip O'Neill and the Democrats did work with President Reagan on the Kemp-Roth-Reagan tax cut. Right now, Democrats are all pro-taxes, and they're not going to help us. But I think despite our narrow majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, I think we get it done.
Excellent. Congressman Bob Onder from right here in Missouri. I know that your time is precious. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon here on the Mark Reardon Show.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Great to talk to you, sir. Hey, and stick around because coming up after the break, we're going to be talking to your friend and mine, KSDK Sports Director Frank Cusumano. Lots to talk about. Go Blues, hope NFL draft issues, Cardinal issues, dogs and cats living together, all next on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young, filling in 97.1 FM Talk.
If you missed anything, podcast The Mark Reardon Show at 971talk.com. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Crews are still on the scene of this accident, northbound 170 at Frost, and they've got the right lane blocked, only one left lane getting by. And that, of course, is creating a jam behind it. We had an accident reported on southbound 270, really close to Olive, but I'm just seeing volume through there, and it looks like it's just south of Page, and it continues in pockets down through Gravois. And we do have some volume southbound 55, and that's just south of the 44 split down through Bates. Some moderate volume in the Herculaneum area and just south of there. That's all due to road work. We've got 70 westbound, moderate volume Jennings Station Road, and then it slows. We had an earlier accident near Zumbel. And 64, it's the usual volume. Kings Highway out through McCausland. Slowings with some moderate volume at 270. And then to the west, a little slow right at the 70 split, but nothing too terrible. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hey, if you need a great family practice attorney here in St. Louis, and I kind of hope you don't just because these are tough things to go through, but if you do, I have the right person for you. That's Susan L. Ward. I love Susan. I've gotten a chance to know her. She is the consummate professional. She is an excellent family law attorney, and they handle a lot of different topics at her law firm, which has multiple locations. But you want someone who's competent. You want someone who has experience. You want someone who knows the judges, because you'd be surprised how much even having that type of experience in, situations like this, in family law in particular, really makes a difference. So she's got you covered with all of that, with a ton of experience and great staff and folks in her office who will take great care of you. Susan, and her personality, though, is infectious. It really is. So she'll tell you, and the website will even tell you, interview a prospective lawyer. Make sure you're comfortable, right? Like do an interview with them as I would do with a guest here on 97.1 FM Talk. When you do that with Susan, I think you're going to want to hire her. You can find out more at stlfamilylaw.com. The focus on family law and the emphasis on you. Susan L. Ward.
Imagine this, a summer evening, relaxing under a beautiful porch overhang, hosting your friends on a composite deck, or enjoying a bug-free breeze in a screened room. That sounds dreamy, right? Hi, it's Kim, and that dream can be your reality with Lakeside Renovation and Design because they specialize in creating outdoor spaces that make your backyard the go-to spot for family and friends. And with their attention to detail and the high-quality materials they use, you'll have a space that lasts for years. Visit lakesideRD.com today to get started on your outdoor oasis.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-700-6898. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-700-6898, 800-700-6898, or biglou.com.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
My favorite getaway close to home is Innsbruck, just about an hour west of St. Louis, 100+ lakes for fishing and fun, tons of hiking trails, an awesome golf course, and plenty of living options for you, either full-time or as a vacation home. And this year at Innsbruck, the new Sonnenhaus homes are available. The Tyrolean Sonnenhaus combines the modern exterior of a treehouse with the cozy interior elements of a cottage. They're amazing, and you can find out everything about the Sonnenhaus and everything else at Innsbruck by going to Innsbruck-resort.com.
We've got Trump's first 100 days all in 1 week with Annie Frey at the White House Monday and Tuesday and Trump's News Nation Town Hall on Wednesday night. Hosted by Chris Cuomo with Bill O'Reilly and Stephen A. Smith. Wednesday night at 7 on 97.1.
Saying what you're thinking. Mark Reardon.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in this afternoon. And this is a great part of the week. Anytime we get a chance to talk to KSDK Sports Director Frank Cusumano. Frank, great to talk to you again, my friend. Uh-oh, Frank, you still there?
Yes, sir. I am ready to go.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, I want to talk to you, Frank. Brad Young here, filling in for Mark Reardon. And there's so much to talk about, but you were at the Blues game yesterday. What was the atmosphere like at Enterprise Center?
Well, it started with Pat Maroon firing up the crowd right before the game. And that was about as loud as I've heard it in a long time. I mean, when you have the pride of Oakville, the author of the great Game 7 game-winning goal, trying to fire up the crowd with a beer in his hand, you knew this town was ready for hockey. And you throw in the fact, Brad, that they have now not lost a game in St. Louis in 66 days. Gosh, go to Winnipeg, steal a game, and come back and finish things off on Friday night.
Well, and that's part of the question here. Why is it, and I know there's a certain character about playing at home that makes the game completely different, but when you watched guys like Jake Neighbors and Tyler Tucker and Braden Shen and Justin Falk and Robert Thomas all scoring goals in the game yesterday, why can't they do that on the road?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure if you've been to many of these playoff hockey games, but the home atmosphere is just electric. I'd like to say it's unique to St. Louis. It's not, because on Wednesday night in Winnipeg, there'll be 15,200 all wearing white, all waving white towels. It's crazy. I think like the home ice advantage in hockey for a playoff game is about as daunting as there is in sports today. So, look, the bottom line is this, is our goaltender has seen 50 shots the last 2 games, and he's let 3 goals in. Their goaltender the last 2 games has seen 46 shots and let in 11 goals and not finished both games. So in terms of mojo and confidence, I'm telling you, if the Blues were to score early in Winnipeg on Wednesday night, I don't know where Connor Hellebuck's, like his psyche's going to be, because his confidence can't be there now. Now, with that said, he's going to win the Vezina Trophy as the best goaltender in the NHL, shortly after the season. But right now, his confidence is waning.
Frank, I got to ask you, it was just a couple of days ago that John Gruden went viral specifically in St. Louis for the unboxing video where he had the motivational speech towards the Blues, and the Blues fans definitely fired them up. I'm hearing some rumors floating around that he will be at Game 6. First, how fun has that been just in general, though, to have the national spotlight from a guy that has very few connections to this area outside of coaching at SEMO, and the fan base has really grabbed hold of that?
Yeah, it's going to be, we thought Pat Maroon fired up the crowd on Sunday. Imagine if they have John Gruden in that same role. It's so obscure. It's so weird. I mean, John Gruden was like a great coach, you're right, with no ties to St. Louis. And he had kind of a scandalous ending, and all of a sudden he pops up and he's the Blues' number 1 motivator. So, and I imagine if he comes to town, Jim Montgomery will have a quick, audience with him, and maybe he'll chat with the team. John Gruden won a Super Bowl. He knows how to motivate a squad.
Yeah, yes, he does. Hey, we're talking to Frank Cusumano, KSTK Sports Director. And Frank, I want to talk about the NFL draft for a moment. Luther Burden III, he goes in the 2nd round to the Bears. Here's the question. Should he have gone in the 1st round, and does it make a difference?
It probably doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference in his bank account because 1st-round picks make more. But the last time I looked, where he's going to be slotted, he'll make $1.4 million a year. It's a multi-year deal. It's a $10 million contract. He's going to be just fine. And he's going to an offense in Chicago, where it's that Detroit offense from a year ago. Coach Ben Johnson has taken over. He's got a quarterback in Caleb Williams who can throw it. He's got talented wide receivers around him. I think it's a great spot, and his family can just get in the car every Sunday and drive 5 hours to go watch him play. Yeah, he'll be just fine.
And speaking of the draft, Brady Cook, we all liked watching him, cook up the excitement there in Columbia. He went undrafted, but what happened after the draft?
Well, I just did a Zoom with him about 5 minutes ago, and he before the draft, almost like before it ended, the New York Jets said, Brady, you're not going to be drafted. We are signing you. We're giving you a contract right away. So he'd been there to New York a few weeks ago and spent a lot of time with their head coach, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach. They knew all about Brady, and this was like a foregone conclusion. Okay, we're not going to draft you, but we're going to sign you right away. So he may be in a great spot. And I got to tell you something. I'm not going to try to say that he's never going to be a starter, but teams have to have 3 quarterbacks. And when you meet the character and the integrity of this guy, and you're throwing this athleticism that a lot of people don't know about, I think he's got a great chance to make a living in this league for a long time. And maybe one day he'll be a starter.
Frank, I'm going to write that down and remind my family that you predicted that. We're all big Brady Cook fans. Thanks for joining us this afternoon on the Mark Reardon Show.
Okay, Brett, you take care. See ya.
Great to talk to you, Frank. Hey, we've got more coming up next, including we're going to talk about Axios and how the media missed it on Joe Biden's cognitive decline, next on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Crews are still on the scene of the accident northbound 170 at Frost, and that's just a little south of 270. Only the left lane is getting by, and we've got a jam that goes south of 70. It's pretty much back to Natural Bridge. Now, westbound 70 out of downtown, Some volume at Jennings Station Road, a little bit on either side of 94 and out in Wentzville. 64 is lined up. It's Kings Highway out past McCausland, a little bit slow at Lindbergh and headed for Winghaven and also at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Southbound 141 has the usual jam headed for 64. And southbound 270 is slowing south of Page in pockets down through Gravois, and then it looks better. Also, westbound or southbound Highway 21 is really jammed just past 270. Plenty of volume on southbound 55, headed through the construction zone down toward Bates, and some moderate volume headed for the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that is traffic. Hold on, is it brought? Nope. On 97.1 FM Talk.
Brought to you by your local Lennox Premier dealer, Scott Lee Heating. Make sure your home's heating and cooling system is being cared for by your local Lennox Premier dealer, Scott Lee Heating. Special savings opportunities and federal tax credits are available, so call 314-756-9444 or visit online at scottleeheating.com.
New Perspective Senior Living is a new facility in Weldon Spring, Missouri. It's an awesome location, not too far from 6440. It's next to Persimmon Woods Golf Course, just kind of around the corner from Progress West Hospital. And that access and where that is located really, I think, is one of the benefits of New Perspective, because easy access if you're going into the Chesterfield Valley, you're going the other way into St. Charles, or maybe you're heading to Columbia, you still have great access. If you live out in that area and you want to visit mom and dad, for example, you still have great access in and out, which is a benefit of New Perspective. But this is a brand new facility. It's really, really awesome. 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, all the things that you would require. But it's really the approach that they have is different, and you can kind of feel it when you take a tour, and they'd love to have you over at New Perspective. They call it a friendlier approach to senior living. I think you'll get that. You'll understand that when you meet the staff and you take a tour. N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, npseniorliving.com. New Perspective Senior Living, a friendlier approach to senior living.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. Go to NordicuSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New you, new Nordic.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. It's not just that we've won millions of dollars for our injured clients. We have. It's that we've won the trust of thousands of clients who were victims of careless drivers due to no fault of their own. We have the team, the talent, the tenacity to get you the money you deserve. Not every firm has that. Most don't, I assure you. We do, and we win. Kaufman Townsley. Real people, real results. Call 314-500-5000. That's 314-500-5000.
And a lot of people, when they come in, they'll say, I'm usually much more active, but since I've been in pain, I've had to limit the activities I'm doing.
You're listening to Janelle, an arch support specialist at the Good Feet store.
So he came in and he wanted to be able to keep up, play sports with his kids. And from there, we figure out which arch supports complement those activities. I fit him with the arch supports. And as I followed up with him, he's messaged me and said, I took my kids to the park today. We're walking, we're exercising, riding the bikes. And those are all things that he wasn't doing before because he was in pain.
For over 25 years, the Good Feet store's arch support specialists have been helping folks to live the life they love without foot, knee, hip, or back pain getting in the way.
Our goal is to have that long-term change for them. That's what's most important, is knowing that you leave an impact on someone's life. And I like that.
Try them for yourself. Stop in for a free personalized fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store.
Visit one of our 2 locations, Creve Coeur and Shiloh, Illinois, and at goodfeet.com.
Hey, it's Annie. Join me for the 5th Annual Chairman's Golf Tournament on Monday, May 12th at Tamarack Golf Club in Shiloh, Illinois, benefiting the St. Clair County GOP. The 4-person scramble includes awesome prizes and lunch. We're broadcasting live. Learn more at 971talk.com/events.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
Presidential milestone. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Tomorrow marks 100 days of President Trump's second term, as Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the president has made good on his promise to stop illegal immigration, saying nearly 800 people in the U.S. illegally were arrested in the first 4 days alone.
Operation Tidal Wave is a preview of what is to come around this country. Large-scale operations that employ our state and local enforcement partners to get criminal illegal aliens off our streets.
Levitt says the president will sign executive orders that she says will help law enforcement pursue criminals and the other to identify so-called sanctuary cities. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer blasting the president's first 100 days.
His actions as president are almost in direct contradiction on issue after issue after issue. They are seeing that Donald Trump is not on their side. He's not on the side of working families. He's on the side of the billionaires.
Schumer says Democrats will expose what he calls President Trump's lies. Russia has declared a 72-hour ceasefire in Ukraine from May 8th through May 10th. As the Kremlin celebrates Victory Day in World War II, U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker says President Trump wants the ceasefire to be permanent.
I think President Trump has created the environment so that these parties can come together, but ultimately it's going to be up to Russia and Ukraine to agree to any deal that can be had.
President Trump met with Ukraine's President Zelensky over the weekend at Pope Francis' funeral in an effort to get both sides to come together on a permanent ceasefire. The grid operator in Spain has restored electricity for about half the country after a massive power outage that hit most of Spain and Portugal. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says power to the rest of the country should be restored by tomorrow. Wall Street, the Dow up 114, the Nasdaq lost 16. America is listening to Fox News.
Point. Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Ace, you're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at metamucil.com.
I'm ready. Let me just grab my bag.
Sweatpants, huh? Didn't know we were keeping it casual this month.
Yeah, I feel bloated every now and then.
You have to try new Align 3-in-1 Biotic Gummies. They have prebiotics to nourish good bacteria, probiotics to help relieve occasional bloating, and postbiotics for immune support.
All that in one gummy?
Yep. So no sweatpants next time?
Not anymore.
Align 3-in-1 Biotic Gummies for gut health support. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Windy and quite warm for evening plans as clouds take over. We'll drop out of the 80s into the upper 70s, 69. That's it for the overnight low. Tuesday, periods of rain and thunderstorms. Otherwise, a mix of clouds and sunshine, windy and 75. Showers and a couple of thunderstorms Tuesday night, 60, and still unsettled Wednesday and Thursday. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Retirement Advisor Group, because I don't think there has been a quarter in any of the time that I've worked with Thomas Helbig and the team the last 4 years that we've had on Wall Street like this. It's not all been good. Now, the good news for you is the team at the Retirement Advisor Group is there for you. And I'm going to tell you about a seminar that we're going to have in a few weeks. You know, we do 5 of these a year, and we'd love for you to show up. It's a Tuesday night at the Plaza Frontenac Hilton. It's the 20th of May. So that is a Tuesday night. Mark and Annie and I will all be there. Thomas and the team, his nephew, Bob Kershaw, Bob's wife, Tammy. It is a family-run operation. They're going to give you some strategies, especially if you're freaking out about what the market is doing right now. They will tell you they've never lost a client a penny of their principal. How is that even possible? Well, they have strategies that are a little different. The secret is safely linking to the market. You're going to hear all about it that night. It's not a big investment of your time, a quick in and out. If you have a connection, you like what you hear, you move forward, but there's no obligation. Get reserved today. Go online to retirementkey.com. They have a tab up there. You can get registered for the event. We just need to know that you're coming because these are free events. So go to retirementkey.com today, and we'll see you on the 20th.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to your new favorite drink. It's Annie here. I'm talking about the hottest new drink, vodka-infused Mom Water. If you're looking for something incredibly refreshing with no carbonation, no sugar, no sodium, no artificial preservatives, no carbs, and just 90 calories that is absolutely refreshing and delicious, you're looking for Mom Water. You can find Mom Water at Schnucks, Deerberg's, Total Wine & More, and if it's not at your store, ask for it. Enjoy the 4 original Mom Water flavors. The Julie, which is passion fruit, Linda, which is blueberry peach, Karen, which is lemon blueberry, and Sandy, coconut mango, plus 2 new fall seasonal flavors, the Nancy, which is a pineapple orange, and the Susan, a strawberry kiwi. With simple ingredients, water, grain, natural spirits, all natural flavors, and citric acid, I know you'll be telling everybody about Mom Water. Or pick up the 8-can variety pack, the Mom Squad. At Schnucks, Deerberg's, Total Wine & More, pick up my favorite drink, Mom Water. Brought to you by our friends at Lore Wine and Spirits.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. A question I get all the time is, how did we become the largest injury firm in the world? We have over 1,000 lawyers in all 50 states and close to 6,000 coworkers. Our call center is on duty 24/7. You can reach us at any time at forthepeople.com. But the real reason is we won a lot. When you visit our website, go to our verdicts and settlements. There you will see what our clients were offered and what they were awarded at trial. All those verdicts help us resolve many cases fairly and early. You see, nothing beats reputation. The insurance industry knows who we are. We even have insurance adjusters call us for representation because they know too. We've made it easy. On your mobile device or computer, go to forthepeople.com and we will get busy. It's that easy. Call today. Morgan & Morgan, for the people. Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in this afternoon, and I am thrilled to welcome Curtis Houck to the airwaves here today. He's the managing editor of Newsbusters with the Media Research Center. Hey, Curtis, thanks for joining us this afternoon here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Hey, I wanted to reach out to you because we had what I thought was kind of a stunning admission, but then on the other hand, it shouldn't have been stunning, and that is that an Axios reporter at the White House Correspondents' Dinner actually calls out the media for its coverage of Biden's cognitive decline. Tell us about it. What happened?
Yeah, so this was the White House Correspondents' Dinner, perhaps the most self-righteous event known to man. The White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's an entire weekend where journalists celebrate themselves, which is really interesting because that's something that they do every single day to anyone who will listen and with themselves. The most insufferable group of people, DC journalists, even more so than politicians. Alex Thompson at the dinner, along with the scholarships, which is what they claim is the real reason for having the dinner, they give out some awards for coverage by White House reporters for various things over the previous year. And Thompson received one for his reporting in Axios about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Oh my gosh, amazing. You know, isn't that interesting? Now that Joe Biden is not president, we can now give awards to people for the few that actually did write about Joe Biden. And he actually had something interesting to say. Like, you know, I can read a small quote here. We bear some responsibility for faith in the media being at such lows. I say this because acknowledging errors builds trust, and being defensive about them further erodes it. We should have done better. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious, number one. Number two, I say he did have stories that people weren't talking about enough. You know, he did have these stories. He was perhaps the most consistent single individual reporter in the mainstream media doing stories about Biden not really being with the program. But as Red Stees on Twitter notes, he too, earlier in Biden's presidency, not just the last year, went along with a lot of these narratives. He has a stutter. Oh, he's just being jovial, you know, with his inability to recall people's names. That kind of thing, saying it's Republican attacks. So you could look at this one of two ways. You could be generous and say he did the right thing. You know, it's the first step towards rebuilding trust by saying you have a problem. But also you could say it's lip service because Biden's not president anymore.
But which is more astounding from your perspective, Curtis, that the media acknowledged that they didn't do a good job of covering Biden, or that someone got an award for saying that?
Well, I think it's the former, because I think it is interesting that he specifically said not just that we should have done better, but the part about acknowledging errors builds trust and being defensive about them further erodes it. We need more of this. We need this to be said by everyone, because the reality is, and why it's so frustrating to deal with these people, is they equate valid, generic, run-of-the-mill criticism with like death threats or something, like we're somehow against the First Amendment by saying the liberal media are a bunch of creeps, annoying bastards, like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's un-American. No, we're simply saying that you guys are not doing a good job.
Correct.
And I think this is the way to go about it. But you also then have to have a track record about doing better next time. You can't just say, oh, we messed up this time.
Correct. Yeah, it's not just an admission of past problems, but it should also be a template for how we'll not make the same mistakes next time. And I want to ask you this on the same topic, because NBC, or should I say former NBC correspondent and host of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, he basically said the same thing recently when he was asked about it. And his answer was this. And he said what everyone knows but didn't say out loud. He said that our fear as journalists, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said our fear as journalists was that if we pointed out problems with Biden, that it might actually help Trump, and we all hate Trump. But isn't that at the core of missing the whole purpose of journalism to begin with?
Right, to report the facts without fear or favor. I mean, I think this is an issue that we have in all forms of media, liberal media, corporate media, yes, even a lot of conservative media. We only tell people things that they want to hear, and the facts have to win the day. That's just how this goes. People just want to stay in their nice little comfort zones. But when the legacy liberal media, all of these network behemoths are the ones that supposedly are supposed to control the messaging and whom we are supposed to put our trust in, they have made a decision to go in one direction. And it's going to take a lot more than just one guy standing up from Axios, a much newer outlet with shorter, easier to read stories, admittedly, to say we need to do better. We can't just blame it on voters being stupid and falling for disinformation, which is what has been their normal strategy
It really
the last decade.
We're talking to Curtis Houck. He's the managing editor of Newsbusters, which of course is with the Media Research Center. And Curtis, for years now, we've been told by the mainstream media that Joe Biden was basically doing backflips and gymnastics while calculating the trajectory of satellites on their orbit around the Earth, and he's doing it in his sleep. Is there any tie-in between that and the fact that right now the mainstream media has historic lows when it comes to both trust and people watching and consuming the mainstream media?
Well, I think it was definitely there before. Like there are people out there that say, oh, NPR and PBS used to be so trustworthy, and 30 years ago, 60 Minutes was the bee's knees. No, I mean, I think they've always been biased. The Media Research Center was created in 1987, and some of the quotes that they had then, well before I was alive or thought of, oh no, my parents were probably thinking of me by that point.
Well, they were thinking of something, but it may not have been you, but go ahead.
Yeah, not have been me yet. It showed that there was all kinds of nasty things out there. But I think something as vivid as Joe Biden, Joe Biden falling apart before our very eyes, that is something that I think people take great offense to. Like, you're really insulting our intelligence at this point, because at the very least, the things that happened with Bill Clinton were behind closed doors. I mean, not that we didn't think they were true, but we didn't physically see them with our own eyes. Whereas the things happening with Joe Biden, we actually see him calling out to a dead congresswoman, him shaking hands with the air, those kinds of things, falling down.
Yeah, and we could see those things. You're right. We could see those things. And then when we hear the media telling us that what we're seeing is not true, there's no wonder that there's no trust in the mainstream media today. Curtis Houck, managing editor of Newsbusters with the Media Research Center, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Always a pleasure. You guys are one of the best. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Great to talk to you. And it's also great to talk to our very own Annie Fry, who's in Washington, D.C. right now. And we're going to talk to her right after this.
Annie Goes to Washington is sponsored by Stewart's American Mortgage. Same or better rates, no closing costs, fast closing. And by Grasser Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Call Grasser Electric.
Hey, Annie, great to talk to you. Tell us literally right now, where are you? Let us live vicariously through you.
Okay, I'm gonna paint a little picture for you right now. I am sitting on a black park bench. My feet are on a beautifully paved brick path that flows through Lafayette Park that's just north of the White House. And for people who may remember, if you haven't been to Washington, D.C., I've been a few times now in the last year, but I still consider myself very much a newbie. So, like, I see things and I'm like, I remember when that was on the news or whatever it might be. Lafayette Park was the park that President Trump walked through when the BLM riots were going crazy and they were attacking the church right here on the corner. I'm looking directly at this little church on the corner. Lafayette Park is teeming with people. It's a beautiful day.
Is that also the park where Vince Foster was found with the gun in the wrong hand and he allegedly committed suicide?
That sounds specific, and I have no idea.
That was during the Clinton administration.
Yeah, you're going to have to get one of your producers to Google that. And it's too late to make me look good. So
I'm going by memory here, but I think it's the same
Okay.
park. But I'm sorry to interrupt. So tell us, though,
No, that's fine.
why are you there? Why is Annie gone to Washington?
Well, first and foremost, a gigantic thank you to Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage and to Grasser Electric for making this possible for us to make this trip and to help us really get the word out about this trip so people can kind of live vicariously through my eyes, through my experiences. It really, I don't know if I am here because it was my birthday, if that's too simple to say, but Brad Range, my producer, for my birthday, he had been working on this as an opportunity to get me to sit in with the White House press pool, and it kind of came together right around my birthday. So, and then after we got the approval for me to be able to participate in the White House press pool, they said, hey, my birthday was the 18th. So that's the week that I found out that this was going on. So that's like, a week ago or two. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, the end of April is the 100 days recognition of the administration. It'd be great if you came out. There'd be a ton of opportunity. And so we turned it around super fast. And now I'm sitting here in Lafayette Park where that thing you just said happened, maybe.
Well, that was during the Clinton administration, but we're going way back. But my point is for today, though, what did you actually see today there at the White House?
So I made my way to the press entrance at the White House this morning. I was in line to get in at about 6:55 a.m. Eastern time after an 11:35 p.m. Eastern time landing last night, getting in late last night. And I was able to attend the press briefing that they had. Traditionally, those press briefings happen late morning, afternoon, but because of the 100 days recognition, they're holding them probably in the mornings throughout the course of this week. I know tomorrow is going to be the same, and I will be in the press room once again tomorrow. And this morning, they focused on border security and immigration reform. So Carolyn Levitt began the briefing at 8:30 a.m. That would have been Eastern time, so 7:30 at home. And next to her up there at the podium was Tom Homan. And just to hear Tom Homan give such a focused and clear and concise goal that they have with this administration. I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing. He has no doubts about the fact that what he is doing is right for this country, is right for the people on both sides of the border. So I was able to be in the press briefing room for that. And then this afternoon, I was able to go and attend the Eagles Super Bowl championship recognition and celebration on the other side of the White House, which was really amazing. I got to see the Rose Garden, the outside of the Oval Office as I was walking to south side of the White House. And I'm just sitting here. I'm basically going where they tell me I can go and talking to people in the press room and just learning about how this whole thing works that we consume every day, multiple times a day. Getting to see it from this angle is really eye-opening and really, really cool.
Well, Mark Cox just texted me, by the way, Annie, and let me know that Foster did not commit suicide himself. Obviously, I knew that. That's why I made the line about Vince Foster had the gun in his wrong hand, but that was in Fort Marcy Park. So my apologies.
That makes sense. I remember.
I got my parks messed up from the Clinton administration. So thank you, Mark Cox, for correcting me. I will tell you, though, that Ethan had a great question. And Ethan was talking to us during the break, and he said, if I were there, I would just think, wow, what am I doing here? And did that thought ever come to you today during the course of all of the events that you've been witnessing?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm trying to make that not my only thought while I am here. Ethan's exactly right. I mean, you know, I was actually having a great conversation with Mark Meredith, who's with Fox News. He does a lot of hits with us on the station, and he does a lot of TV, of course. But he was so kind and so explanatory, because there's not. I mean, these are all professional people here. They're here doing their jobs. There's not a lot of time to like babysit a newbie who's getting this opportunity. And I'm appreciative of that, because if it seemed like you could bring people in, but you had to hold their hands, they wouldn't bring people in because they don't have time to do that. So it's really amazing to be able to be here and take it all in, and all of this stuff is happening around me. And I was saying on our show earlier today that my job today, I was focusing on learning as much as I could and trying to soak it in and understand, okay, when people go through that door, what's on the other side of that door? Because have you ever been to the White House?
I have.
Have you ever?
I have. I've been through in the White House on a tour once, and to me it was breathtaking, but it was limited. And you were in places that normal people like me don't get to go.
Well, and you know, the other thing too is that in our minds, it's kind of an endless place, you know, like it's always teeming with people and business and just, you know, these really massive things. But at the same time, it's physically, while it is certainly a mansion, the West Wing part of the White House isn't really that big. And you go in the press briefing room and you're like, this isn't nearly as big as I thought it was. And I have the possibility to, I would another one of those Ethan moments, what am I doing here, to go into the Oval Office if they sign executive orders. Tomorrow, I might get the opportunity to do that. And I had multiple people who I just kind of struck up conversations with. They'll be like, it's a lot smaller than you think. It looks bigger on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's magnificent. The history, like that's the thing that strikes me the most when I'm in there and I understand the gravity of the things that have taken place in those walls. And I'm standing there. So I would actually kind of hope that everybody who walks into the White House for the first time would go, what am I doing here? You know?
Hi, Andy. This is your producer, Ethan Hannaford.
Hi, Ethan.
So earlier I asked you a sports question regarding if you were going to be able to sneak off to a Nationals game. It was 95% a joke. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with that theme. Philadelphia Eagles. Did you get like close to any of these massive professional football players? And what was that like getting to? I mean, that's such a unique thing to be a part of, a president recognizing a Super Bowl champion team. So what was that like?
I really think it's interesting that you asked that question, because when I was there, listen, I have no affinity whatsoever, complete and total indifference to the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't hate them, don't love them, don't personally, you know, this wasn't a celebration for me, but it was really kind of cool to see these people who were gathered, you know, the people, not the press people, but I don't know how many people were there, maybe a couple hundred or whatever, but they're family members, they're, you know, people who work in the staff. There's so much that, you know, we all know that a professional athletic, you know, a professional team in the NFL or the MLB or NBA or whatever, there's a lot of people working to support a championship team that are in the background that don't get recognized. And a lot of those people were there on the White House lawn today. And it's Philly now. So it kind of occurred to me that I'm standing here with all these Philly fans. And, you know, as soon as they make the announcement that they're going to come out, they start cheering and spelling Eagles correctly, I might add. But then it was so funny being Philadelphia. And I've been to a Phillies game before, and I've experienced that, you know, fandom or whatever, at least in Philadelphia. They had all the players lined up, like getting ready for the president to come out and everything. And then there was, I don't know, it might have been like 5 to 7 minutes, it seemed like, of just standing there, like, okay, it's a photo op, whatever. But several of the Philadelphia fans in the White House lawn are like, what are we waiting for? And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like that makes total sense.
Very fitting of the Philadelphia fan. The personalities of that's super cool.
So, so Annie, just as we wrap this up, we've got to go to a commercial break here, but you'll be there tomorrow as well, right?
Correct. I have a press pass for the whole day tomorrow. And then, as I understand it, Ethan, I'm going to fly back early Wednesday, and you're going to pick me up from the airport, and then we're going to host the show Wednesday.
That's the plan.
That
in
is
studio.
The plan. So thanks so much for joining us here on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in. Annie, great as always to talk to you.
And I want to, if I can scooch into here just real quick, again, one more time, thank you so much to Stewart's American Mortgage and Grasser Electric for making this possible. It's been great to have them sponsor the show, sponsor this trip, and just want to make sure we understand how much we appreciate them.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate them. And then when you get home, Google Vince Foster and find out why he did not commit suicide. You're
going to have to text me those names.
It'll be an eye-opening experience. Annie, great to talk to you as always.
Take care.
Hey, when we come back from this break, we're going to talk to Joe Warmington. Right now, Canada is electing their next prime minister. How will the spat with U.S. over the trade tariffs, how will that impact the Canadian election? Next, right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Nothing changed at all, and if you close your eyes.
You're listening to the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads this afternoon, we've got some volume out there. It's not that bad. If you are westbound on 64, it lines up Kings Highway out through McCausland. Eastbound, a little slow there at Big Bend. Southbound 170 slowing, headed for 64, but they cleared that accident northbound, so it's thinning out through there, headed for 270. Southbound 270, slow pockets Olive down through Gravois. Out west, 70 looks good. 64 is just a little slow at the 70 split. And we've got volume southbound 55, mainly headed for Bates in the construction zone. But if you're headed into Illinois, we really look great on the bridges downtown. And that's pretty much all of the bridges. So enjoy yourself going into Illinois. That is a nice change. This report brought to you by Siding Express. Transform your home with the beauty and durability of James Hardie Siding. At Siding Express, they specialize in James Hardie siding installation. Visit sidingexpress.com today to schedule a free consultation. Sidingexpress.com. I'm Sue Thomas. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk.
You know, for being honest, real estate has been kind of tricky here, supply and demand issues, everything sort of exacerbated during the pandemic. But I know a couple of guys here in town with a great staff and a great team, Mark and Neil Gelman, that can get you through anything because they've been still very successful over the past few years selling and making sure that homeowners can move into their next home rather seamlessly. That can be tricky, but they have techniques and tricks, and they have expertise, and they have experience here in St. Louis. They also have a great tool on their website. If you go to thegelmanteam.com, you can click on the top of the page where it says, how much is your home really worth? Find out for free. You put your address in. They will kick you back that price. If you're going to list your home tomorrow, it would be right around that price. It's not a guesstimate. It's a very accurate representation where the market is right now. And then they can help you take it to the next step. If you need an instant cash offer, they have that as well. I want to guide you into the website, though, because on that website, they have some blog posts, even some podcasts about real estate. If you're curious or just want to know what your home value is, go to thegelmanteam.com. The Gelman Team with eXp Realty here in St. Louis, thegelmanteam.com.
Hi, this is Steve Butts with the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. I know we're all experiencing sticker shock when you get your insurance premium. Now more than ever, you need an independent insurance agent to find the best value for your family's insurance needs. Crawford Butts, family owned and operated for more than 60 years. Please give us a call at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call the Lance Story Law Firm today and let us get between you and the IRS. We'll protect your rights, including your right to appeal or even your right to take the IRS to tax court. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney team who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Story Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis, or visit Lance, DRURY, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm, the Land Story Law Firm, 314-260-6120.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Mark Cox here for my friends at Home Shield Foundation. This is a local family-owned company. They do waterproofing. They do crack repair. They can replace your sump pump and do complete waterproofing and drain tile and sump pit installation in your basement. And the owner, Matt Hayes, promises you this. He's going to come in. He's going to inspect your basement to determine the property repair that's needed. Check him out today. Tell him Mark Cox sent you. It's HomeshieldFoundationRepairs.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
5:32 is the time. This time check sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
97.1 FM Talk. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. And you probably know, but right now there's an election in Canada to determine the next prime minister. And that's why I wanted to reach out to Joe Warmington. He's a Toronto Sun columnist, and I want to get the scoop on the election right from somebody who knows. Joe, welcome to 97.1 FM Talk.
Good to be with you, Brad. Yeah, it's we're maybe 3 hours from the polls actually closing. I'm working on it right now, working on my column for the Toronto Sun. I'm going to be heading out to one of the the places where they count the votes and all that stuff. So it's going to be really interesting. It's not quite like as exciting as the American national election, but it's as close as you get to that. And it has been really intense here. And there's a lot on the line. And of course, the president, your president, is in the middle of the whole thing. So
yes, he is. And
I'm
going to ask you about that in a second, Joe. But just to kind of set the table, as it were, right now, the current prime minister, Mark Carney, he stepped in when Pierre Trudeau stepped down. He's with the Liberal Party.
Justin Trudeau.
Or Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Pierre was his dad. Yeah. And sorry, I'm dating myself here with Pierre.
No problem. I thought I might as well get it. We might as well
Thank
get that
you.
right. Okay,
yeah, we got to get to Justin. And I won't even get into the conspiracy theories about the Cuban president, but they'll save that for another day.
Mark has asked me about that before, so.
But on the conservative side, I think it's Pierre Poilievre is also on the ballot, so to speak. But tell us, for folks who don't understand how Canadian politics work, how does the Canadian election differ from the U.S. election?
Well, they don't have the set dates, and they don't have, it's a parliamentary system like the British system. So they, basically they have 300 plus seats. I think it's, can't remember the exact number now. Sometimes it changes, and so whoever has the most seats forms the government. And you've got different parties that get seats. I mean, the two big parties are obviously the Conservatives, which would be like your Republicans, and the Liberals, like your Democrats. And then the NDP are kind of more left. It's a third kind of bigger party, and they're usually third place, although they have formed governments provincially, things like that. And then there's outliers like the People's Party and the Green Party and things like that. They often have no seats or one seat or two seats, things like that. So basically what we have here is you've had a decade of Justin Trudeau's Liberals, and he tanked in the polls. I mean, just a nightmare for so many Canadians, and everything has just gone to hell. And this guy Pierre Poilievre is young; he's like 45 years old, married, 2 kids, the whole thing, ready to go, leading the last year and a half in the polls, and then Trudeau just got scared and got out. They forced him out. So they brought this guy Mark Carney in, who is basically the globalist. I mean, there's no one like that. He's been the chair of the Bank of Canada, the chair of the Bank of England. He's the chair of Brookfield, which is one of those big things similar to BlackRock. It's not as big as that, but it's a $1 trillion asset company, which is headquartered right in New York City. So that's the guy that sort of inherited. He won the party leadership, and he's been the prime minister. He was only there for 9 days, then he called this election. You can call an election. You've got a 5-year window to do it. And it's about, it's a minority parliament that's propped up by another party, so that kind of run out. It's a little confusing, I think, for people to follow it, but even for us, it's not easy. I kind of like the American system because it's a little more straightforward, and you get those set dates, which I like a lot. Here, you never know when they're going to call it. But anyway, here we are. They're counting the ballots, Brad, right now, and we'll know most likely tonight, unless there's some sort of unusual situation. But we should know who the new prime minister is, whether it's Carney hangs on to it or whether we get a new leader in Pierre Poilievre.
Well, we're talking to Joe Warmington. He's a Toronto Sun columnist. And Joe, talk to us about trends, because when you look at the U.S. media, of course, wants to make it all about Trump. But when you look at the trend line in terms of how this election was progressing, from your perspective, did Donald Trump's either the tariff issues or the comments about the 51st state, has that had, from a Canadian's perspective, a significant impact on the direction of the election?
There's no question about it. He's interfered in the election. I mean, it's unbecoming any leader to do what he did to Canada. He has zero respect for the country, zero respect for any of the people who lead the country. And he also is taking Americans on something they didn't vote for him for, which is to, I'm saying quotations, annex the country, become the 51st state. And he says it over and over and over again. And, at first people thought it was kind of cute. They don't now. And as a result, he's going to probably end up, we'll see in a few hours, with the Liberals, holding on to this thing, because nobody wants, everybody's scared of him, and they're scared of change. I mean, basically, Canada has contributed an awful lot to American success. I mean, of the 20 states that are closer to Canada, Canada's the largest trading partner, and lots of oil and minerals and everything else go that way. But President Trump has been focused on this trade deficit. But what he's really doing, and I don't blame him for this part, is that he won on the 7 states, the swing states, and he wants to bring all those jobs back. And that's why he's doing the tariffs, and that's particularly with Canada, because in Canada we have agreements, like Mexico does, to build things. And a lot of cars, American cars, go back and forth 7 times before they're finished between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So he wants those jobs all to be made down in Michigan and places like that, in Cleveland, and I understand that. The problem is that you're going to crater a country and tank it, and have a country of 40 million people, which is a good neighbor, loves Americans, and say, we're going to put you out of business. You're not a real country unless it's us. Well, maybe if you're a state. It's very, very insulting. Look, I support President Trump all through it. All 3 times. But, I think he's gone too far here, and there's nothing I can do really about it. As a Canadian, you just have to have your own vote. But look at, it looks like he's sort of pushed, the Liberals he sort of pushed Canada and the Liberals and then himself, we'll see. But all the polls indicate that they're going to maintain power, and it'll be quite a political story, because they were dead as a doornail. If it wasn't for Trump, they would still be dead. And they were able to tell Canadians, we have to fight against Trump. And of course, Poilievre leans a little more towards Trump, and is sort of known as the Canadian Trump. He couldn't really fight Trump. He put out some words, but they seemed hollow, didn't really mean it, and they used the rhetoric. So And Trump has said he wants the liberal. He wants Carney. So we'll see what happens, but you may regret it. I'll tell you.
Well, as we learned from 2016, Joe, polls cannot always be trusted. And finally, we're going to have to break here for a commercial break. But lastly, you said we're going to know the results tonight. Approximately, I mean, do you have any idea about when tonight we might start getting an idea of how this election is going to turn out?
I would say around 10 o'clock you'll know tonight, because it's at 9:30. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I agree with you. The polls, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I've been covering the whole election for the Toronto Sun, written many things about it. And, I'm still kind of thinking that it's possible that we sort of equate it to the American election, even the one with Hillary Clinton, that maybe there'll be a surprise. But at the same time, Canada is not the same as the United States. It's very, very, I don't know, it's kind of monolithic in a weird way. I know we have the West, we have the East, we have different things, but it's not like your North, South, East, West. It's a little bit different. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be very, very, it could be very close on many ridings. I mean, I'm writing that as we speak. I hope I explained it well.
You did, Joe.
I just want Americans to know that we love Americans, and, I know we'll sort this out at some point. And, obviously President Trump, hopefully he backs off on us at one point.
Well, understood, Joe. Joe Warmington, Toronto Sun columnist. Great to talk to you again right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Have a good night. Thank you,
Joe. Hey, one of the things I wanted to mention here just to wrap up this segment, and obviously Joe Warmington was coming from a Canadian perspective, but when you look at tariffs, I'm generally a free trade guy. But one of the areas where I believe tariffs are essential is when it comes to auto manufacturing. When he talks about all of these cars that go back and forth across the border, these are vehicles to be sold in the United States. And we have the capacity, the manufacturing capacity to make more cars here. And so even though that hurts Canada in terms of employment, what's wrong from the U.S. perspective to increasing the employment of auto manufacturers and to make more cars that are then purchased by Americans? I see nothing wrong with that. Now, when you look at toys or textiles or other things like that, sock manufacturing is never coming back to the U.S. ever. It's just never going to happen. You can't make a pair of socks or a toaster in the U.S. because they'd cost $100. But you can bring car manufacturing back. I support tariffs in that area. And the fact that Canadians don't like it, frankly, I'm not all that upset that they don't like it, because we're giving them jobs that could easily go to Americans right here in the U.S. And I hope that this tariff concept brings that type of manufacturing back to the United States. Hey, we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this with a cut of the day. Stick around on 97.1 FM Talk.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Man, this is a nice commute today. I don't know what the deal is. It's almost like the summer is coming. Westbound 70 looks great out of downtown. 64 is fine. I mean, there's a little bit of a slowdown at Hampton and eastbound at Big Bend, and that has kind of backed up southbound 170. But that's it. If you are headed into Illinois, things look fine. We've only got moderate volume at Bates on southbound 55. Southbound 270 is in good shape. Now, we had a report of signal problems at 109 and 44, so right there at the bottom of the ramp. Southbound 109 is slowing at 44, and westbound 44, some moderate volume out there. But that's the worst of it. Really not too bad. This report brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. And for over 25 years, Lakeside Renovation and Design has been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. From windows, siding, kitchens, baths, outdoor spaces, they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic 97.1 FM Talk.
Hey guys, I want you to check out Game Day Men's Health. And I want to explain that there's a difference with Game Day because if we're being honest, you have options when it comes to testosterone testing and PSA tests. They're offering a free testosterone and PSA test. And here's why. They recognize, especially if you've had any ability to compare and contrast, they know if they get you in the door, and Matt will tell you this, at Game Day Men's Health in Chesterfield, they have a couple other locations too. It's such a great environment. It's a man cave environment. They're going to make you feel very comfortable. The staff is amazing, and they're going to guide you through whatever your needs might be. So whether it's low energy, decreased libido, a lot of things that they can really specialize in. They have vitamin therapy, peptide therapy, all these things, some of these things I've never even heard of, but they'll guide you through it at Game Day Men's Health. They won't make you feel rushed. They'll answer all your questions. Then after the free test, they'll come back after about 20 minutes and say, hey, here's what we're seeing. It's a customized treatment plan. There is no one size fits all. And the pricing is very simple. It includes all medicines and supplies. Get with Game Day Men's Health today. They're in Chesterfield at 6440 and Olive and Clarkson. They're in O'Fallon, Missouri, also in Glen Carbon, Illinois. Get back to the top of your game with Game Day Men's Health, GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH, or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
History is happening in D.C. and 97.1 FM Talk is on the inside. Our very own Annie Fry has been selected to join the national press pool covering President Trump's 100th day in office.
I'm going to Washington, and you're coming with me.
Exclusive access, unfiltered insight, local coverage, and we're inviting you along.
I'm Annie Fry, reporting from the White House throughout the day on 97.1 FM Talk.
Annie Goes to Washington is presented by Stewart's American Mortgage and Grasser Electric. The Annie Fry Show
would block schools across the state from using native names, logos, and mascots.
Pep rally Sunday at Collinsville Football Stadium saying, please respect local control on these issues.
Weekdays from noon to 3. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young winding up today. The rest of the week will be Mike Elam. And then next week, I'll be sitting in on Monday and Wednesday of next week. So mark your calendars for that. One of the things I wanted to check with Frank Cusumano on, and we just didn't have time, but I wanted to ask him about the passing of Walt Jocketty. And I just remember watching Walt Jocketty when he was here for the Cardinals and how he presented class. He presented an air of knowledge and understanding, really understanding of what Cardinals fans want. And it wasn't that Cardinals fans expect every year that you're going to have the World Series winning team, but that the team, and this is what St. Louis wants and what Walt Jocketty understood, was that St. Louis wants to try to get to the World Series, to put the best team on the field, not just the best team we can put on the field at minimum wage. And so we saw that during the Walt Jocketty years. The fans were at the stadium. Right now, I mean, I've been to, 5 games so far this year, and the fans haven't been there. Ethan, I know you were a lot younger then, but what were your thoughts or memories of Walt Jocketty?
I mean, one of the golden ages of Cardinals baseball.
Yes.
Was just, I think people don't understand that, the Cardinals obviously have been around for a really long time, but when you look at the ages of success, they can be broken into a small different couple of categories, right? I mean, you look at the time that Walt Jocketty was with the Cardinals, I think it was 95 to 08, around that time. Right. I don't know if that's the exact amount of years, but during that time, 7 division championships, 2 National League championships, and a world title. You look at different ages for the Cardinals, right? You had the 60s when they went to 3 World Series and they won 2 of them. You look at the 40s when they won 3 World Series. You look at the 20s when they won a couple, right? Like you can break it up into a couple of different ages when the team was at its best in this long 30-year history. And this, no doubt, that 10-year, 12, whatever it was, year stretch that he was here will go down as one of the best stretches in that long history of the St. Louis Cardinals. So obviously very sad hearing the passing of Walt Jocketty. Also had a couple of 100-win seasons in there, was named the executive of the year in the MLB twice during his time with the Cardinals. Brought in, obviously they drafted so many big names while he was there. But
he hired Tony La Russa.
He hired Tony La Russa.
I'll always admire him for that.
A trading master as well. I mean, Walt Jocketty, one of the best to ever do it.
Yes, he was, and he is going to be missed. Hey, we've only got a few minutes here, so I want to make sure that we make time for the audio cut of the day.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
Hey, an audio cut of the day today. We all know that right now Paramount, the Paramount Network, is undergoing a possibility of selling and merging with other media conglomerates. And because of that, they requires FTC approval by the Trump administration. So once this news came out about some issues at 60 Minutes, this is what Scott Pelley had to say about one of the executives quitting 60 Minutes.
Our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires.
Now, listen, did you hear what he said? Number one, there's 2 things that I want to follow up on, Sue, and you caught the second one because you laughed about honest journalism. Is there anything about 60 Minutes that's fair and balanced?
No, as evidenced by them coming and talking to Kim Gardner. If you isolate that story alone, there is your answer.
What about Kamala Harris and her interview?
Oh my gosh, you're right. Editing stuff out.
The way it was edited, they edited out all the word salad. And if Donald Trump had done a word salad, that would have been the lead of the story.
Of course.
So number one, it was a joke for Scott Pelley to say it's fair and balanced journalism. But secondly, in that clip, even Scott Pelley acknowledges that at no point did Paramount interfere with any news story whatsoever.
And he just glosses by it. Nope, they've never stopped a story. But
and that was a big but. And And yet there was acknowledgement that never there was interference. If I could talk to Scott Pelley, I would ask him this. I would say, did any member of the 60 Minutes team or any member of the mainstream media complain when the Biden administration did put pressure on media to bury the Hunter Biden story,
right?
To bury the fact that COVID came from China? Was there any pressure at any time for the media to do that? Did they complain? And of course, the answer to that would be no. Hey, Brad Young sitting in today for Mark Reardon. Glad you were with us. Stick around for more on 97.1 FM Talk.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Traffic is thinning out nicely. If you're headed into Illinois, things look great. 64 westbound, just a little slow at Clayton Skinker. 70 looks good. Now, there was some volume and looks like some moderate volume. Westbound 44 at 109. A report of signal problems there. And southbound 109 is pretty slow at 44 as well. This report is brought to you by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. If you need a new garage door, this could be your lucky day. Entries are now open for the $5,000 sweepstakes at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Enter now at overheaddoorstlewis.com. You can't win if you don't enter at overheaddoorstlewis.com. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardie contractor and Pella window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050, and have a banner day.
Hey, it's Annie with my friend Stewie, and you know Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan gets you your mortgage or your refinance at no closing costs. And I have Stewie with me right now. You're all about saving people money. Fiscal responsibility is really in right now, and you've got something up your sleeve for these folks.
You know what, Annie? Some people like to get better cash flow. Other people just want to pay off all their debt. So we're going to do something very, very unique. In Scotland, it was traditional to paint the door red once you paid off your mortgage. So we're going to give you the Red Bagel Challenge. If you refinance with us and you consolidate your debt and you get your mortgage paid off in half the period of time remaining, we're going to give you a $1,000 bonus at the end of that term.
Well, Stewie's all about helping you build your wealth and build equity, and the Bagel Loan is another way to do it. Remember, no closing costs with the Bagel Loan. Reach out to Stewie directly with 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. You can Google Bagel Loan for more information, NMLS number 226715.
Experience the exhilarating atmosphere of a Cardinals game. Join the sea of red in the wave around the stadium. Feel the rush of excitement as a home run lights up the sky with fireworks, bringing the whole ballpark to their feet. Nothing beats the thrill of watching the Cards get the W with the final out at the plate. It's more than a game. It's an experience. Visit Cardinals.com for tickets and info. St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.